Good morning. Good morning. Happy. What we got? Tuesday. Holy shit, folks! It's Tuesday. We did it. It might be Wednesday. What day is it? Honest to God, I'm not sure on this one. What is today? It's got to be Tuesday. It's Tuesday, right? It's Tuesday, right? It is. Good morning. As you guys are rolling in while we're waiting for the real host, if you guys could hit that like button thing. I see those hearts going up already. And if you want to share this with your favorite or least favorite MAGA, that would be useful to us as well. Uh, yeah, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I didn't have a subject yet for today, and I was on Twitter following my favorite psychopath, Gunther Eagleman, and all these other like the MAGAs, the extreme MAGAs, the Laverne Spicers, the Gunther Eagleman, like they are all in on this Epstein thing. They're all in. But like I don't there's nobody. There's not a single person that has more connections, whether it be quotes, videos, interviews, still pictures. Nobody famous that I can think of has more connections to Epstein than Trump. And yet he's the only one that they're all sure didn't do anything. His names are on the flight logs. He's got pictures with him. There's interviews with him talking nicely. He wished Ghislaine the best. He's like, I wish her all the best. I think that this is a trying time for Ghislaine and the other Epsteiners. Yeah, like nobody connection to Jeffrey Epstein than Donald Trump, and yet MAGA folks are living and breathing on the fact that Clinton's name appears there. Good morning.
I thought, yeah, I wanted to talk about that. That's crazy.
Yeah, what did you want to say? First
Uh,
of all, great videos this morning. If you guys haven't caught Felice's videos, she did some amazing stuff. She's a fucking overachiever and it's annoying. I thought
I just do it to make you feel like crap.
I know I did two videos yesterday and they each took me probably an hour or so to make. And I was like, man, killed it. And then Felice this morning sends me, she's like, here's 8 videos. Oh, and here's like 5 more that I just did. I don't know. What'd you make? 11 videos yesterday
I don't know.
or
Yeah,
this
I don't
morning?
know.
Yeah, anyways.
I am an
What do you think about old
overachiever.
what do you think about old Jeffrey and Donald?
Well, yeah, so I heard what you were just saying. Yeah, I put it in the outline. I can't remember what number it is, but some article just about how involving Marjorie Taylor Greene. Is that the one that you were talking about? But kind of just the same thing you were saying. Marjorie Taylor Greene is just running around, the internet
Yeah.
yelling. It's like a Guardian interview just about how hypocritical it is that Marjorie Taylor Greene's like, see, Bill Clinton, like, we
Well, yeah, I
knew
was
what
talking
he
about like
was
all
up
the
to this whole time, and I was called a liar. It's like Bill Clinton himself has never denied being on Jeffrey Epstein's plane. Like that, we
right.
all knew about it.
Which and
Like,
we had like we knew that sorry, I just got distracted by a very weird video on Twitter that I don't want to talk about. Let me close that. That
okay.
got me so
Well, that's
distracted. It was
like
my
every
AD.
video on Twitter now is like so scary.
No, that one was
Twitter is just
bad.
like it's scary to even start playing videos because it's just like who knows
Yeah.
what this is gonna be.
I hated that. I hated that a lot. Um what was I don't even remember. Yeah, fuck it. I don't
I
Oh,
was
we were
talking
talking
about
about
Marjorie
margarine.
Taylor Greene and how she's
Yeah.
all over Twitter being like, see, like she's acting like Bill Clinton, which who again has never denied being like on Jeffrey Epstein's plane. She's acting like Bill Clinton saying, because like he had like a PR team or whatever say that he's gonna be like what is it? It's like John Doe, because they're calling him like
Yeah,
John
like
Doe,
Joe
like number
36 or something.
30.
I think it was
Yeah, number
36. Yeah.
36. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's gonna be, and so he's doing like preventative, like PR. Like, not unlike Robert. I mean, you could have a PR firm do it, or you could just be like RFK and just go on Jesse Waters' show and just randomly be like, oh, I forgot to mention that I'm a fossil hunter, and that's why I was on Jeffrey Epstein's plane, fossil hunting.
Generally speaking, every fossil I've ever found was on a private plane. That's the only place I find them is on private
Exactly.
planes. Was
Exactly.
Jeffrey Epstein also a fossil hunter?
I don't know. I didn't know that was an excuse, but that was part of RFK's excuse. Like, I mean, he was just rambling things like, "Well, my wife was there. Well, if she wasn't there, then I was fossil hunting." I don't really remember, and it's like, what are you saying, sir?
Well, I think that if we were looking at it honestly, Donald Trump leads a bunch of people who are convinced that Jeffrey Epstein is going to bring down every Democrat. But do you know who never talks about Jeffrey Epstein? Is Donald Trump. He didn't talk about him
That,
anymore. He's For all of you Trump people who love to talk about Epstein. Have you ever asked yourself why your president doesn't talk about him? Why, when they asked about Ghislaine Maxwell, he wished her well?
it's
Like,
Ghislaine.
is it? How is it Ghislaine? How is that?
It's
That's not.
French. I mean,
I.
that's a French name.
You know how I feel about the French.
It's
It's
not
Ghislaine.
Ghislaine. Like, please
What?
stop saying
I'm gonna say
that.
Ghislaine. No, that is so stupid. You can't put an S in a word and then pretend
Well,
that
I
the
mean,
S
obviously
is
you've never
silent.
met the French or the Spanish, but I mean, you absolutely can.
You
But
know how I feel
you
about
know,
the French. I
I
don't like
I
them.
love the French. I'm telling
I
you,
know
the
you
French are
do.
amazing. I
I
love the
know
French.
almost nothing
I
about
listen.
France,
I would
but I
just
don't like
rather
them.
people tell me when they have a problem with me, and that's the best thing about the French. The minute they do not like you, they will just look you in the eyes and they will inform you of that. But
That's what I'm doing about the French right now. French, I
I
don't like you.
appreciate it. Yeah, I know, and
Tony
they don't
Parker.
care that you
Tony
don't like
Parker is a
them.
bum. Who are the other? The only French people I know
Tony,
are.
okay, I will say this. If anyone wants to go into something weird, I will say one of the weirdest things about Tony Parker is first thing, does anyone remember when he was dating that woman from Desperate Housewives, Eva
Yeah,
Longoria? And then, okay, so right around that time, I remember, has anyone ever seen the rap video? You know, Tony Parker is like a famous French rapper, not a terrible French rapper, but you know,
yeah.
whatever you want to call it.
I have
But
not
like
seen a
when he
Tony.
was with oh my God, like that could be a
He's
whole,
rapping.
we could do a whole deep dive on Tony Parker's like French rap career. Yeah. And
Well, and
she, if
then
I'm not remember, I'm bringing her up because I'm pretty sure she was in one of his like awful French rap videos.
I was on. This is shocking that I'm
Yeah.
unaware of this with Tony Parker, but also Rudy Gobert, French, ended the NBA season. Remember the COVID thing when he
Oh
wiped his
yeah,
hand?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, the French are awful. Who is a person from
No, they are
France that
not.
I should
They're
respect?
just honest. Listen, I applaud anyone. We should not be so passive aggressive. Everyone should just say what they're thinking
You sound like
more
a Trump
often.
supporter. He just tells the
No,
truth.
I
He's
don't.
honest. He says it like it
No,
is.
that's completely different. I'm talking about, like, I'm just saying, if someone has a problem with me, I don't want them to pretend they don't, you know? I appreciate. And the other thing about the French is just this, and this is a problem because Americans don't live outside the US enough. We should all, at 18, like, you have to join the military in some countries. We should be forced to go live in another country for a year. Like, if you go
You
to a
just gotta go.
country whose first language is not English, then you need to try to speak their language. And if you don't, you need to be prepared for people to be very annoyed with you.
See, now you
Like,
sound like MAGA again. If you come to our country, speak English. See?
no, it's not. It's no, listen, it's a courtesy thing. You don't go around the world and assume that everyone should speak English. Like, it's rude, it's presumptuous, it's a problem that Americans have. And if you just go to France, no one's expecting you to be fluent, but you need to attempt to speak their language.
Would you, if you could enable this law where everybody had to go for a year, would you do like random assignments to countries,
No,
or would you
everyone,
say like, are
all
you gonna
MAGA
try and
needs
go
to
culture
head south.
shock?
No, everyone from MAGA, you guys are all going south of here because you guys. It's so simple. It's so simple for you guys to figure out what's going on. You guys will come back. You guys are both either going to Venezuela or Cuba, and then you guys can figure
It,
out why the migrants are coming from why the majority of people at the southern border are coming from Venezuela and Cuba, and you can learn the history of how America destabilized those countries financially and why everyone's at our border. It will be great for you guys.
the problem with MAGA is I think that they are so hard-headed that they would just go down there and the people would be like, here's what happened. We have a dictator who has cut off the supply of money to us, and MAGA would be like, no, it's socialism. This is socialism, and then they would come back and then for forever they'd be able to say, I lived in a socialist country. I know. And they'd be like, what's socialism? And they're like, I don't know. But they would just use that
No
as their
clue.
story
No
forever.
idea what socialism is still to
None.
this day. But yeah, no, they need to go down there and learn. And fascinating, like on, I think it was New Year's Eve, I messaged you like super earlier and I was like, Lev Parnas is going to be on Michael Cohen's podcast this
Oh, that's
morning,
right.
live. And one of the things, I cannot wait for Lev Parnas's book to come out now, because one of the things he was like harping on big time is he's like, I wasn't just involved in like the Hunter Biden's hard drive thing. Like he was helping find a safe landing for Nicolas Maduro. He was going, once Trump's coup displaced Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro, Lev Parnas was involved in figuring out like where he will go.
Where was he thinking?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. He was talking about how he made introductions with some guy from Miami who Trump needed to be in contact with because they were going to figure out, like, once we, the 2020 coup, Venezuela coup, where first it was, Trump making threats. And then when Nicolas Maduro was like, no, we've nationalized our gas and oil, like, whatever. So then Trump cut him off, all the tariffs started and then the actual coup. And yeah, that's Love Parnas didn't get too deep into it. He's just like, you need to read the book, but he's like, that's a fundamental misunderstanding. Is like also my involvement in Venezuela. So
When does
I
his book
can't
come out?
wait. Well, by the like probably end of January, early February. But yeah, I mean, he said so many interesting things. But I also, oh my God, can I just play my clip, my Love
Please.
Parnas clip of him saying, the the debunking of the laptop. I mean, how many times do we have to do this? But he does it so beautifully, because if you guys don't know who Lev Parnas was, like he is Rudy Giuliani's like Ukrainian contact. Like it was Lev Parnas and Rudy Giuliani that went to get Hunter Biden's hard drive. Like it was them. These two were together the entire time. So, and then
I
that's
thought they
what's,
were just like on on a trip together, just enjoying
I know,
some
that's what
brunch,
it
some
seems
French
like.
food, They- taking
Okay,
selfies.
so listen to Lev Parnas just debunking Hunter Biden's laptop.
But the interesting part of one.
Oh, wait. And while we're doing this, guys, tap the screen. Let's get to 25K and invite some Republicans, because we would love to talk to some Republicans in 2024.
But the interesting part I want to mention about the laptop, I don't want to go too much into it because hopefully I still am going to testify and I want to try and protect the integrity of my answers. But I read about it in my book extensively. That laptop was talked about to us first in the beginning in March of 2019 by Ukrainians telling us that laptop existed, or actually a hard drive of a laptop existed. And then it was officially confirmed to us by somebody that works very closely with Rudy and also was involved in getting Hunter Biden his job with Burisma, that validated that there was a laptop that Hunter Biden had that was taken by the FSB. And nobody knows. We definitely know there was a copy made, but we don't know if it was, messed with, if there was things put on, deleted. But there was during one of Hunter's escapades, it was taken in Kazakhstan.
So they took his laptop and copied the hard drive in Kazakhstan, is what Lev Parnas is saying. The FSB.
Wait, they're
And
saying
there were
that
two copies made. One for
they had
Yeah,
the
the
physical
FS
laptop before. So
No,
are they
just
saying
the
that?
hard drive. No, just the FSB. While Hunter Biden was on some binge basically in Kazakhstan, the FSB copied the hard drive.
Okay, so Hunter had the hard drive with him, or did he have his laptop? That's what
No,
I'm
he has his
asking.
laptop, and I imagine they just like broke into a hotel room like while he's on a binge. I mean, that's what they're saying is while Hunter was in Kazakhstan on some binge, the FSB copied the hard drive.
Wait, so is this? I this is weird because then the hard drive came from that. Why did we need? So the copies of
But
the
that's
hard
the
drive
point.
didn't come from when they picked up the laptop from that computer
Yeah,
repair
but that's
man.
that's
Is that
that's
what
the
he's saying?
point. What Lev Parnas, yes, that's the crazy
That's
thing. If you
crazy.
understand what Lev Parnas's story is they, through his Ukrainian contacts, had meetings, and the first they ever heard of this Hunter Biden's hard drive was from people who had contacts with FSB, who said Hunter Biden was on a binge in Kazakhstan, and FSB it copied the hard drive. That's the first time they knew that they were trying to get it. But keep listening, because and now what he's going to explain is like because they were specifically looking, him and Kaludi were looking for something, that they could use against Joe Biden. And they were like, and they're saying like, well, we have this hard drive, FSB copied it, but it's just like sexually explicit stuff and like stuff to do with, illegal substances. There's no financial stuff. Like that's the point, is they were after the financial stuff, but what was on that hard drive and what they were told in the meeting is like it doesn't have any of that stuff. And then that stuff appeared on it. Like that's the point. Listen.
For the FSB, which is the Russian intelligence, and the other one was for the owner of Burisma to be able to have certain compromise down the road on the vice president's son. But
So they're saying FSB copied that hard drive in Kazakhstan, and it also went to Burisma executives because they wanted compromat on the vice president's son. That's what this whole thing was about, which we already pretty much knew.
Interesting part about it is when we're in that meeting, Rudy Giuliani really went hard at Vitaly Prus and asked him, said, what is on that hard drive that, we could use, that we were talking about getting? And Vitaly told us. There's some, not very nice pictures of him naked with girls. There's him with a crack pipe. There's him taking drugs. I mean, all of that, stuff that you're talking about, that it's unfortunate, but we all understand, and it's a very, sad situation. But Rudy goes back into him and says, okay, but what about like financial stuff, legal stuff? And the response was, no. There was no like really criminality. So when we were
no criminality on the hard drive. That's what their contacts told them when they told them it existed. It's not on there.
Supposed to get that day when I got arrested, when I was going to Vienna to actually retrieve the hard drive that was supposed to be handed to us. It was supposed to only contain, very, pictures, videos of him doing drugs and sexual stuff. There was never any mention about any, emails about criminality and transfers, because that's what we were looking for. If it was there, believe me, that's what would have been spoken about, not some pictures of him doing drugs. And then all of a sudden, when Rudy gets the hard drive and starts disseminating it to the New York Post and everybody else, there's all kinds of crazy shit on that hard drive, So you could make sense of that, and common sense wise. Yeah.
And there you have it.
That is fucking wild. If what Lev Parnas is saying is true,
he was there. He was the contact Rudy Giuliani used to get all these meetings. He is the guy.
Right, and I'm just saying, if this is all true, this ruins the entire story. It ruins the entire story of even the idea that the laptop shouldn't have been suppressed, like the laptop story. That makes that story true. That makes that letter that the Department of Justice officials wrote true. That means that like the social media
Russian
companies
interference.
that means the social media companies were complicit now. That they were complicit in spreading misinformation to I guess affect the 2020 election. If that's true, if he can prove that, that's insane. That's one of the wildest things I've ever heard. I can't believe I didn't listen to this.
It has always been Lev Parnas and Rudy Giuliani. It has always been those two. This was their errand, right? Rudy contacted Lev. This was their errand together, and those two have always been complicit in this. And why? If they ever wanted the truth, why have they not called Lev Parnas? And Lev Parnas, what he's saying over and over during this hour, like 10-minute interview, which was amazing. I suggest it's on the Michael Cohen's Mea Culpa podcast. It was on the morning of December 31st. Absolutely amazing. And the point is, if Les Parnas was always the guy, and they will not call him, right? And maybe he gets to testify behind closed doors, but they want Devin Booker behind closed doors. Devin Booker, as I read the transcript, said nothing, corroborated absolutely nothing about that. Said Joe Biden had no involvement in this. They won't call Lev Parnas. They won't call Rudy Giuliani. They won't call anybody who actually will just say the truth.
Yeah, I remember in the summer, David saying, and I hate to use David, but we'll use David. I remember when Lev Parnas offered to testify, and then he didn't testify. And the excuse from the Republicans was that the rhinos didn't want him to testify and tell the truth. Turns out that most likely who didn't want him to testify is the opposite of that. It's the MAGA folks. If this is what he was going to testify to, this would have been terrible for
This
the
is not
Republicans.
the first time he said, yeah, this is not the first time Lev Parnas has said this. They know that this is his testimony. Like, Lev Parnas was arrested trying to go pick up this hard drive in Austria. Like, it's a whole thing. Like, I suggest everyone just listen to this interview because they talk about their arrests and, like, his was, like, by Bill Barr, and it's all sorts of interesting. I mean, the collusion, the corruption, like...
Well, and wasn't he?
It's very clear why they don't want Lev Parnas' testimony on the record. Because
Isn't this basically what
he's
his
the guy.
crimes
He
were?
can debunk every single story that has ever been told.
And this is from what I understand, this is what he was found guilty of, right? For taking foreign aid, conspiring to make political contributions by a foreign national, along with solicitation and aiding and
Yeah.
abetting the making
Like
of the same.
operating as like a foreign agent, like different things.
Right.
You know.
But all this stuff that makes sense when he's saying that, like, oh, they got this compromise on Donald Trump. This is from the FSB. Like, all of this makes sense when you look at the crimes that he was actually accused of, and I believe pled guilty to. He got
Yes.
prison time.
He
for
went
this.
to jail too. I learned the same. He was in the same clink as Michael Cohen. They were talking about like which cubicle they were
That's
both in
crazy.
or something.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so this makes sense. This tracks with who Lev Parnas was, what he's been convicted of, what we know of him. It makes sense that he would have this information.
Guys, someone's saying, where do I find this Cookies Mom? Yeah, this was an interview from December 31st on Michael Cohen's podcast for Midas Touch. It's called Mea Culpa, like my fault, you know, MEA-CULPA. So just look that up, like Mea Culpa, Michael Cohen, Lev Parnas. And yeah, this was the morning of December 31st. It's a great interview.
I like Michael Cohen. I like what he puts out, but I can't stand the way that he speaks. It drives me nuts. He just
Why?
is.
Because he's a real New Yorker? He's just a New York. Michael Cohen's a New Yorker. Like, it's not for everyone.
I
As
know.
someone that lives in New York, it's just like you don't like the French, though. It's the same thing. Like, I love New Yorkers because you never have to worry about where you stand with New Yorkers. If they have a problem, the minute they're just gonna, in that accent, just tell you F you. I love New Yorkers. Like, I hear
what
like
I'm
a New York
saying-
accent,
yeah.
like a real one, and I'm just like, oh, I feel at home.
I'm leery of anybody who speaks confidently of everything. Like, people who speak confidently about everything, I don't trust those people. Nobody knows everything. Nobody
Really?
should
That's
be able to
really
speak
funny
confidently
coming
about
from you.
everything. Well, no, if you started talking to me about cars, I would be like, I don't know. If you talk
Well,
to me
no,
about
that's very
something
true.
that-
I agree with what
Yeah.
you're saying, but like the thing about Michael Cohen, or this is my experience with Michael Cohen, because I don't think anyone should believe Michael Cohen, right? Like, just anytime you're listening to anyone speak about anything, you can independently like investigate their claims. You don't need to take anyone's word for anything. But Michael Cohen, I think, was probably one of the smartest lawyers that ever worked for Trump, and for the longest amount of time. And every claim that he's ever made, when I independently like research or investigate it, like there's never any evidence to oppose it. And it's also like
True.
the thing to understand about Michael Cohen is like he prepared for like this day now, right? Like, Michael Cohen is never sitting there making a bunch of claims. He's just saying, hey, here's the evidence I have, right? Like, Michael Cohen, what he has is a bunch of documents and like paper trails. So I don't know. Like, I don't think anyone should take anyone at face value, but I think that Michael Cohen, in my experience with his claims, has been pretty credible.
Yeah, I agree. I've really enjoyed him on what's the one he does with Midas Touch? What's that podcast called?
It's called Mea Culpa. And then there's
the other one. He does
Mea Culpa is his Midas. He does one with
with Glenn
just like
Kirshner,
an
right?
hour a day, like at noon, with Ben Macelis. But I can't remember what they call it. But it's like it's something
Yeah.
to do with legal.
Yeah, I like
Break-
that's the one I
legal
usually listen to. I
breakdown or
don't
something.
usually listen to Cohen's. Maybe I just don't have the time.
Yeah, there's a lot of podcasts out there to listen to. Like, it's exhausting. But yeah, I find like if you want to know about the inner workings of like the Russia collusion stuff, like what was being done and said behind the scenes. Yeah, like Michael Cohen, when you just need to listen to the Michael Cohen Lev Parnas interview because it's just they both speak the same language. They worked behind the scenes for
Yeah.
Donald Trump for a long time and they just lived the story. They're not like talking like, oh, let me recount. They're just like, oh yeah, and then this happened. Yeah, it's
It it's interesting
just listen
given
to it
that,
and
or I guess maybe ironic that given that Trump is under RICO charges, it's ironic when you hear the people that worked for him and in his organization, like how much they operate like mafia and like a like an organized criminal enterprise. Like that's who
oh,
Lev
for
Parnas
sure.
is, and they specifically got Lev Parnas because that's who he is. Rudy Giuliani knows how these criminal organizations move as well as anybody. He prosecuted them and he kind of ran one when he was in New York. Every time one of these, Michael Cohen, same deal. Like, how come all these people that keep getting busted for Trump run their organizations like criminal organizations, and we can't see that with Trump? Like, we just
They were
can't see
talking
that.
about it. Yeah, they were talking. They talk about it in the interview. Just the nature, like the structure of the organization, and how Trump is a mob boss, and like it's interesting to hear them talk about Rudy Khalidi because they both know him like intimately, and talk about like Jack Smith has been asking a bunch of witnesses about the alcohol consumption, because it's and Lev Parnas was talking about like how much it is and like just that whether reporters were outside when they all worked for Trump because of something good or something awful. Like it's just about the attention. He's like, Rudy became less relevant after his kind of fame of like putting away the mafia or whatever, and he couldn't stand it. And so Lev Parnas is like, I think he just wants to go out with the cameras on him, whether it's because he's done something awful or done something great. It does not matter. He just doesn't want to be irrelevant.
Well, that meshes with I don't remember what number it is, the video of him that you sent today.
Oh God, I know. What? Here, let me pull up I have the video. Rudy Giuliani is like in Times Square on New Year's Eve, like with some lady just like in nothing but a fur coat. I mean, we don't know what's
They
under
call
the
her
coat.
doctor at one point. I don't know who
Do
she
they?
is, but I was
I
thinking that at the end, whoever's speaking to them says something about, or I can't remember if it's Rudy. One of them
I know,
calls her
like who's
doctor.
filming the video? I was
I don't know.
wondering that too. Like
In the
who
middle
is
of the
filming
street.
this? In the middle of like the median in Times Square. Yeah, like not a great place to be standing. Okay.
I
Anyways,
was just
so
thinking,
here's
like, where was
is
Rudy?
this
Where do
his
you think?
date? I think this is his date, or it's something awkward's
Well,
going
where
on
was
with
he going? What
these
party
two.
was Rudy invited to? Is what
I
I was
don't
trying
know,
to
but
figure
after
out.
hearing Love Parnas just talk about the alleged amount of alcohol being consumed, and then reading in court documents how Jack Smith's like seeking information about it, like, yeah, this makes sense. Rudy's feeling good. He had a little New Year's date and was just, this is a man who has an $148 million defamation judgment
Yeah,
against
and
him,
he's saying
among
20.
other things.
He's saying it was a great year and 2024 is going to be another one. No, dude, it was such a bad year for you.
Yeah,
This
I
was
don't think
your
it could get
worst
any
year.
worse, Rudy.
This was the worst year of your life.
The only
Promise, it
place to go
was.
from the bottom is up, Rudy. Like, don't worry about it.
Yeah, I
Listen
guess
to him.
that could be how he's looking at it. Maybe he's saying
I know,
2024
but
is
he's not
better.
saying he's completely delusional.
Tonight,
Be careful.
yes, be careful, but the ball dropping in Times Square is the center of the world. Everybody will be watching.
Everybody.
And if you were up on a big planet all the way up there, and somebody said, "Where's the center of that place?" they would point to Times Square and 42nd Street. Better remain that way. I worked real hard to get it there. It better remain that way. But
Happy New Year.
God bless New York. God bless America. Happy New Year. And Dr.
New
Maria,
Year,
what a great
Oh
year.
my gosh, he does call her Dr. Maria. Like,
Yeah,
what
but
is
who gets
that
called
about?
doctor and then their first name? Like, what kind of
don't
doctor is
know.
that?
I'm very. I know it's very.
I'm gonna guess
The whole thing
homeopathic.
seems weird. Well, at the beginning, she's like, "What? Be careful!" Like, basically saying to him, "Like, don't say anything insane." Like,
Yeah,
just
I, first of all, does he think that he put New York on the map? He's like, I
that's
worked
what he
very
said.
hard.
He's like, I worked
very hard to
hard
get
to
it there.
make it. Like, he's taking credit for Times Square. That's
Yeah,
basically what
New
he's
York
doing.
wasn't shit till Rudy Giuliani came around. Nobody had even heard of New York City till Rudy Giuliani came around. He put him on the map. That's what we
I
know
know,
about Rudy.
it's-
And I liked the part where,
Poor
first of
Rudy.
all, if you're on a faraway planet, you can't see Earth, and you certainly can't point to a specific part of Earth. So that was a weird thing also. I didn't understand what he was
Everything. I
saying.
mean, because he's out of his mind. The guy is out of his mind. There's nothing
And
else.
if you were pointing to the center, you would point to which, if you could see the whole thing, you would point to the center. Just no matter what was in the center. If somebody says find the center, that doesn't mean find the part that shines the most. The center would be the center. So what he's saying makes no goddamn sense, but he thinks he's killing it. He's like, this was a good moment for me. This was me.
Someone said
explaining
Dr.
how big New
Maria
York is.
Ryan is his co-host.
What's her name?
Dr. Maria Ryan, Heavenly VIP says.
All right,
his
let me look up
co-host.
Dr. Maria.
I'm scared. I'm scared. I don't want to look it up. I just
What was the
can't.
last name? Brian?
Ryan,
Ryan.
Ryan.
All right. What is
Gorilla
Dr.
says
Maria?
Dr. Maria Ryan. Look at, I love, gosh, crowdsourcing is the best thing ever.
All right.
Doctor. A doctor of
Okay,
love.
yep, this is her. Here we go. Dr. Maria Ryan, PhD,
She's wearing like a
APRN.
mink coat.
She was the president and CEO of Cottage Hospital. She's all right. This is
Yeah,
her.
by the way, she was wearing fur, like a floor-length fur. So, you know what I mean? It's not great. It does not look like vegan fur, that's for sure. She has like a mink coat on.
She was just like a
She's a dent.
CEO of a hospital mostly. She was. I don't know what an APRN is. Do you know what that means?
APRN. Does
Somebody in
anyone
the
know
chat,
what an
somebody know what
APRN? Something registered nurse or I don't know.
And maybe she
Who
just
knows?
she has a PhD. Let's see. Oh,
Did you
board
look up
certified family nurse practitioner with a specialty in emergency medicine.
So she has a prescription pad, and she's a nurse, probably. That's
She
well.
has a master's
That's what it
degree
means.
in the science of nursing.
She has a prescription pad.
And her doctorate. Oh, okay, here we go. So her doctorate was in healthcare administration, master's in science of nursing, board certified as a
Yeah,
nurse
she
practitioner.
has a prescription
Okay,
pad.
great. Well, she
She
could
can
probably
prescribe.
get, if you guys are struggling to get Adderall, Rudy.
It's probably Rudy's
she's-
feel-good doctor.
Yeah, that's probably what it is. Would you
Allegedly.
mind also being my co-host? She's like, I don't give a shit
I
as
just
long as
said
I can
that.
keep
That's
writing
my
the pills.
opinion.
Yeah, that's right. That was just
That was
a
just
guess.
something. That was my opinion. Okay, moving along. I just want to read this. Mark Cuban. Can we start? I want to talk about this, like Mark Cuban.
You know I'm a
quote.
Dallas Mavericks fan, right? This is like my guy.
No, I did not know you were a Dallas Mavericks fan, but this is like, so why am I not surprised by that from you? Like Mark Cuban, it's kind of like whatever.
Wait, but
but
I'm a Dallas Mavericks
he
fan,
actually-
not because of him. He's just happens to be the
Okay,
owner
well,
of
I
my
don't
team.
know what you're trying to tell me. I could see, like, if there was a billionaire you simp for, I'm sure it's him. Okay.
That's true.
So
No, that's
here's
true.
what-
He would be the one I simp for. That's
Yeah,
true.
I was good to
That's a
say
guess.
this is like your billionaire Mitt Romney. I'm not surprised.
my
I feel
God,
like
Mitt
this is what
Romney.
everybody tries to say. Well, Mark Cuban like is bringing people prescriptions for cheaper. Unless you're fighting to overturn a system that is making the rest of us slaves. That I'm just saying you could be a better on the low end of like morally corrupt billionaires, but amassing that type of wealth and not recirculating it into the economy makes you awful. But Mark Cuban is really good about creating more opportunity, like what we say, rather than just being cruel and saying like let's tax these billionaires out of existence. Like Mark Cuban is really good at, like, he's a good example of we can incentivize people with a lot of money through subsidizing subsidies or whatever to invest in companies and in people, because I think he is a good example of like he
He's
seems,
also
as billionaires go, he seems to care about his employees and invest in them more than most.
Yeah, I think that he's kind of like all of us in some way, in that like he does feel bad that he's a billionaire, I think, but not bad enough that he's going to change it. Like he's, you know what I mean? But he's at least willing to look at the system and be like, all right, here's some problems with the system. I've heard him speak many times about, like, I saw an interview with him just the other day. I don't know when it was. I saw it the other day. I don't know when it was, but he basically said like, hey, look, I'm a billionaire because I got really fucking lucky. That's what happened. I did something that other
he was
people
a
were
great
doing.
time, and he's also smart. Like broadcast.com, what he did in the tech industry, I do admire. Like, and
Yeah.
he's an example of someone that didn't have a lot and like took an opportunity and really took advantage of capitalism in a way. Personally,
if you guys don't know,
which
he
is at
basically
other
was
people's expense. But
He was
he's
basically
smart.
the first guy to put radio on the internet. in a major way.
Yeah, like in the first like edition of YouTube, like recognizing that things need to be taken from radio to the internet, like sporting events especially. Like yeah, he was ahead of his time. So yeah, I do respect Mark Cuban what he's done. But here's his tweet, okay? Which this is smart. Like so Mark Cuban always has some good tweets. He tweeted this on December 31st. I wish Biden would come out and say he wants Trump on the ballot. The 14th doesn't apply. Then thank him for the playbook describing how to never leave office and the appreciation of knowing he can't be charged no matter what he does. And he ends it with, quote, "My fellow Americans, I'm not ever going to leave the White House and there is nothing you can do to me," end quote, which would confirm exactly why SCOTUS will keep Trump off the ballot and why Trump will never get immunity, which is the exact point, right? It's like
Yeah.
Republicans never extend the line of logic out. They never think of the future. They just want their guy to get off. But what you're basically saying is anybody who's elected as president can do whatever they want and they never have to leave office if they don't want to. And Joe Biden doesn't have to leave office now based on that ruling. So congratulations. It's so true. He
Yeah,
should just come out and be like, nope, I agree. Presidential immunity is a thing. Like, let's let Trump off. And to that end, I will never be leaving office. And when I pass away, Kamala will just take over.
Is that what you? Yeah, the Democrats
I'm
would
sorry,
never do
Kamala. That was horrible. I'm sorry. I don't know why I said it like
say
that.
Kamala?
I know.
Is that what
I
you said?
know what her name is. Yeah, Kamala.
It's
sorry.
because we get most of our news. Like we watch so
I know.
much right wing stuff. that
And I
we
hate
hear-
when people mispronounce her name. And
we
I
hear it
just
wrong
did it. I
more
don't even
often
know
than
where
we
that
hear
came
it
from.
right.
I definitely do, for sure.
Um,
But yeah, so
what was I saying? Oh, that's what I was gonna say. So, Democrats would never do this because Democrats, it's a good thing. If you're a partisan, you're upset with Democrats for being pussies, which you hear a lot from the people who are like, I used to be a Democrat, but now I'm a Republican because Republicans have balls. Like, yeah, sometimes the Democrats refuse to do the expedient thing and do the right thing. They wouldn't do this. But if they did want to do this, you have Biden and you're like, he's president until he expires, which is coming. Then you have maybe you want Gavin Newsom. So maybe you just replace Harris with Newsom, and then you have Newsom's your president. And then from then on, you get to just pick the president forever and ever and ever. So if the Supreme Court rules that, why would the Democrats not do that? If the Supreme Court rules that you can't remove him from the ballot and you can do whatever you want, well then why would the Democrats then not just do whatever crimes they want because the president's immune, steal the election, cancel the election, do whatever you want because you're the president, you're immune. There's no laws that apply to you. It's brilliant.
but Republicans never thought it that far. It's just never occurred to them what they would be. What would if SCOTUS agrees with Trump's presidential immunity argument, which legitimately makes no sense. Oh, and actually, while we're here, we could just talk about like Jack Smith just submitted that his argument for that, which is pretty interesting. Let me find it here. In the opening brief for the DC Court of Appeals. Let's see here. I just want to read some of this. So the
Some
special
people
counsel.
are in on President Newsom.
Oh yeah. Well,
Sorry, I was
we
just
all
filling
want,
time while you were waiting.
We would all listen again. He's a moderate Democrat through and through. So, but all we elect are moderate Democrat. I mean, since we had Obama, the ultimate, moderate
Yeah.
Democrat, then we have Joe Biden, and Newsom will be one too. But like, that's the thing. Change happens, or we have to have a candidate that appeals to everyone. So I understand why people want Newsom, and he has become more progressive since the pandemic and since, like, in his own words, watching what DeSantis has done to Florida. So for that reason, like, I see, yeah, he's probably going to be our guy in 2028, right?
I would imagine.
Here's okay, so this is from the special counsel's brief that they just filed for this presidential immunity thing for the district court, okay? So makes clear that this prosecution of a former president is historic in nature, and the United States Constitution, along with long-standing precedent, weigh against Trump's absolute immunity claim. For the first time in our nation's history, this is from the actual brief. Quote, for the first time in our nation's history, a grand jury has charged a former president with committing crimes while in office to overturn an election that he lost. In response, the defendant claims that to protect the institution of the presidency, he must be cloaked with absolute immunity from criminal prosecution unless the House impeached and the Senate convicted him for the same conduct. He is wrong. Separation of power principles, constitutional text, history, and precedent all make clear that a former president may be prosecuted for criminal acts he committed while in office, including, most critically here, illegal acts to remain in power despite losing an election. And the brief goes on to slam Trump's argument that January 6th prosecution brought by the special counsel threatens the very fibers of our democracy. Specifically, the special counsel points to the fact that Trump is claiming immunity in regards to actions specifically meant to interfere with the peaceful transition of power. And then there's one other thing I need to read, which is the wording that he used for making this argument. Sorry, I just have to pull it up, but this is fascinating. Okay, listen to this. That approach would grant immunity from criminal prosecution to a president who accepts a bribe in exchange for directing a lucrative government contract to the payer, a president who instructs the FBI director to plant incriminating evidence on a political enemy, a president who orders the National Guard to unalive his most prominent critics, or a president who sells nuclear secrets to a foreign adversary. Like, do you hear the claims that Jack Smith is alluding to?
Right. Yeah, that's basically what he's saying is
we have
that
no idea like what Jack Smith is about to pull out in this trial.
the Republican argument boils down to the 14th Amendment and basically saying that it's the House and the Senate's responsibility to prosecute the president. However, that if you're saying that it is only their responsibility, then you're saying that once a president leaves office or in between terms, which is what the Trump people are hoping for, they're allowed to commit any crimes because the House and the Senate can't investigate them. They're no longer in office, so impeachment doesn't apply. So you're essentially saying, do they have to get elected again in order to be prosecuted, and then it has to be by the House and Senate? Do you think that that's how our founders laid this out? Do you think this is the process that they wanted, that a former president could never be prosecuted? Do you think that was the intention? I don't know how the Supreme Court can rule differently on this. If they do, that scares the shit out of me. But if they're ruling that you can't bar somebody from the ballot based on your state's rights, and you're using the 14th Amendment to justify barring them from the ballot, then you're ruling essentially that either the 14th Amendment covers all crimes, or the 14th Amendment only covers crimes when you're the president. That's basically what the ruling is, right?
Yeah, it's
And if it
it's
and then if
crazy.
it
Well,
only
because in
applies
each
to
of
when you're
these
president,
scenarios,
then what laws apply when you're not president? Those laws would be the same laws that govern you and I, which
well,
means the
it's
Department of
ludicrous.
Justice would
Yeah,
bring those charges, which is
it's
exactly what
ludicrous.
they're doing.
Yeah, that's why this is so ludicrous. And I mean, it's interesting the examples he's using, I was pointing out, because these are all crimes he's probably going to say, like, I have proof that this stuff was done. But then it's the point of, because in each of these scenarios, this is Jack Smith's words, the president could assert that he was simply executing the laws or communicating with the Department of Justice or discharging his powers as commander in chief or engaging in foreign diplomacy. Like saying if he's selling nuclear secrets, is it reasonable that you sell nuclear secrets, our country's nuclear secrets, and then to the presidential immunity claim is just to say, oh, I was doing some foreign diplomacy.
Yeah, I mean, the
That's
accusation
what
is
his
that
argument is.
there's already accusations that he was showing secret military documents to people. Like
Yeah,
that,
well,
that
that's the
accusation
point.
does exist.
Yeah, but it's been alluded to in the January 6th case that Jack Smith has more evidence than we're seeing, right? Like there's been several filings where he's alluded to Trump was going to sell secrets. And so Like the point is when he uses this language about the nuclear secrets, about the FBI telling the FBI director to implant incriminating evidence, like this is just a little teaser of what Jack Smith is about to pull out at trial. This is going to be wild.
He is a bit of a tease, that old Jack
He
Smith.
is.
He is
Well,
a
he
bit of
can't
a
give it all
tease.
to us. Like that's the thing. People think like these little leaks that are coming out. This is nothing, right? This is just like he's just like whetting our appetites for like what is really coming. Like the real stuff he's not gonna leak until it's too late.
Your friend Gorilla is here. I was told he wasn't very kind about us on David's live the other night. After we were so kind to him, I heard he was bad mouthing us.
What
I don't know.
bad-mouthing
That
me?
we don't know what we're talking about. There's the
Okay,
pay
well, we can
Nina.
ask him.
There's the pay Nina immediately.
I don't know why Gorilla would be
Poor
talking about
Gorilla.
me, but
Oh, you're okay with him? You understand why he's talking shit about me, but maybe not you? That's fair, actually. That's fair. That is fair. I deserve it a
No.
little bit more.
what have I done to him?
That's a good point. Listen, I agree with you. I've been the bully, and the chat is obviously a bully also.
No, come tell us, Gorilla. What I want to know what he was saying. Like when was this? When are you saying he was talking about this?
I don't know. It's been a blur of a couple days. I don't think it was last. It
You
wasn't
tell
last night. It
me.
might have been the night before,
sleeping
possibly
for
the
4
night
days.
previous to that. But I thought we were so nice to him.
That
We-
really hurts my feelings, Gorilla.
That's why we didn't do a live yesterday. Just so you know, we were planning on doing a live, but Felice said I can't. Gorilla hurt my feelings, and she had to take a day off yesterday.
Literally been asleep for like 4 days.
That's so not true. The only thing I ever say about you guys is that RTP won't let you finish a thought or a sentence. That's it. So I don't know what you're talking about. I haven't even been on David's live. I don't even know where David's been.
I don't know either. This is what I heard. It's what I heard. What were you saying?
So you're denying it.
What?
That's fine.
Fair enough. What did you think about what Felice was reading about Jack Smith's response to Trump, or I guess to the Supreme Court? Did you hear that part? Because you said something. I don't remember what you said, but it was something you said like, "I don't know the thing." That's what you said in the comments. I
Oh,
didn't know
the
what
whole
you meant.
nuclear secret thing. That's been debunked.
Well, how's it been debunked?
Well, apparently that's not true, according to the Australian billionaire.
Well, it wasn't. I don't think he said it was nuclear secrets. I said
No,
military
that's-
secrets.
Well, it was
No,
supposed
he
to
was
be-
talking that. I know what you're talking about with the Australian billionaire. That
How
had something
close
to do with
can
like
a
a
sub
nuclear
get-
sub or something. Yeah. But
Yeah.
that's not necessary. I don't know if that's what Jack Smith is alluding to, but I do know that story that you're talking about. Something.
Yeah, because it had to
it
do with a nuclear sub, how close another sub can get to it, and then how many quote unquote rounds are in it. Something like
Yeah, but that was just something he offered up, like in conversation with an Australian billionaire. That's not. If
Yeah, I don't
that's
think that
not
was-
paying someone for nuclear secrets.
But was that
Like,
well?
that's-
The question I was asking, I wasn't saying that it was nuclear secrets, but like, are you saying that story itself has been debunked?
Yeah.
Well, no.
Who
Well,
debunked
it's
that
Trump
story?
discussed nuclear. No, they didn't debunk. Look, Trump discussed nuclear submarines with Australian billionaire Anthony Pratt. It has been confirmed by 3 sources. Donald Trump allegedly discussed sensitive information pertaining to American nuclear submarines with an Australian billionaire at his Mar-a-Lago resort, according to 3 people familiar with the matter. Let's see. The special counsel chart. Okay. There's no indication that the former president shared any sensitive records with the Australian billionaire.
Yeah.
Pratt is not accused of wrongdoing. Well, no, as far as documents, like what these people are saying is just there were people around, and Anthony Pratt or Trump was talking to an Australian billionaire and saying what we were alluding to. It's something about like the distance one sub can be from a nuclear submarine.
Yeah. How
whatever.
close can they get? And then
Yeah.
I think how many.
And in this Anthony Pratt, which everyone look up a picture of Anthony Pratt because it's wild. He
Yes.
looks.
He's got
he looks
worse hair
wild.
than Trump. It's crazy.
Yeah, if it's
Yeah.
possible, they dye their hair. They have the same colorist, but
But that's
Yeah,
what I'm
like
assuming Jack
it's
Smith
not
is
it's yeah, no
referring
one's
to.
saying Anthony Pratt got like nuclear documents or something from Trump. No one's saying that. That was just people that said, "I was there when this conversation happened."
Yeah, I think that's a nothing burger, and that's what I'm
But
assuming
that's
Jack
not
Smith
what Jack
is.
Smith is. No, that's not, and we don't know that.
So there's a whole
Jack Smith,
other
well, this
nuclear issue going
yeah,
on.
in court filings several times now, this being the last time, the latest time in court filings, Jack Smith has alluded to the fact that there's evidence that Trump tried to actually sell nuclear secrets. This is just one of those times, but we won't know what this is about or why he's saying it until trial. Nobody knows.
I
Oh
want
my!
But yeah,
I
he's
want to go
the
back.
Anthony Pratt thing has nothing to do with Trump selling it. And so if anyone is confused, the Anthony Pratt thing, that was never about Trump selling secrets.
Grill, I wanted to ask you though the other part she was talking about on the 14th Amendment, and it's maybe you heard what Mark Cuban said, but with Trump's defense of using the 14th Amendment, saying that he can't be disqualified from the ballot, that essentially means that the president, while they're in office or out of office, is able to do basically any crime they want. What do you think about that being Trump's defense? That his defense is, I was the president, I can commit crimes.
No, I would agree with you on that, where Department of Justice would take over. And as far as the 14th Amendment goes, oh man, you can only really listen to constitutional lawyers, and Dershowitz pretty much put it into that, but maybe that's because he's on the flight log. I don't know.
Well, I don't think
Dershowitz all
Dershowitz
up
put
in
an
the
end to that, did he? What, I mean,
no, he listen, Dershowitz is the
Yeah.
guy who is arguing Trump's side, like he's making the due process argument. But like for like Lawrence Tribe, who's one of the foremost constitutional scholars, or what's the man's name, Judge Ludig, who's a conservative constitutional scholar, like make the opposite argument. But yeah, like this is a matter of interpreting the Constitution, and there's no but one more suited to do that than the Supreme Court. Like this is what they're there for. Like
Well,
they
I think
just need to make the call.
they're gonna fight over it too. And one of the points that I had heard was the term officer. That Trump isn't an officer; he was president. Officers are lower than that. So I don't know. I mean, it seems like
well,
everybody's got their own
I think the
narrative on it.
problem, I think what they're going to have to decide there. Sorry to cut you off. I think what they're going to have to decide there is, well, if the 14th Amendment doesn't apply to the president, and this is what I was getting at, then what does? Because this is talking about how to prosecute somebody. There's no separate amendment or part of the Constitution that specifically then says how do you prosecute the president differently than the people listed in the 14th Amendment. And I don't think the Supreme Court is going to be able to point to a different place. So that's why I say they either have to rule that the president can do whatever the fuck he wants, or the 14th Amendment applies. Those are basically the rulings and the options that they have. There is no other amendment or section of the Constitution that addresses what happens if the president commits these crimes. So that's why I think they're going to have to rule that he's an officer.
Yeah. There's the whole other part to that too, where it was intended for Confederate people, right? But then you have someone that was removed
Those are the
using the
Republicans.
14th Amendment recently.
Hey, it was include. That's basically saying like, if that's not about Jefferson Davis in regards to the Civil War and the Confederates, who is it about? Like the man who was
Right.
running the Confederacy cannot turn around and now run for to be the United States president. Like that's what they were trying to stop. And we all know we don't want any person who gets elected as president being able to not be prosecuted. Like think about that, right? Like
Yeah,
you're
'cause then
saying
you're
whoever is
king.
president.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're a
That's
king, and do whatever you want. Take as much money, do whatever shady things you can get done in that time slot, and then you could just leave, and no one can do anything about it. Like that's wild.
definitely they did not intend for that. Could you
So what do
imagine?
you think they should do? Or how do you think the Supreme Court should rule on this?
Well, I think well, I'm a Trump supporter, so obviously I think that
Well, no, take Trump out of it. Just like, what do you think the right ruling is here?
I think it's going to come down to the whole officer thing. I think that that's the resolution. I mean, because Trump was already a previous president, So I think that's where the difference is going to come into play, is like, you can't, if it was intended to prevent Confederate people from, treasonous people from running for office, that wouldn't be someone who's already been president, in my mind.
Well, what if they
No,
what
you
if they
can be
were, though?
president and then do treason and not be allowed to
Yeah,
Well,
be
yeah,
president again.
that's the thing. Like, again, if that was what happened, right, and that is what happened, that doesn't mean that the court case has to line up. The facts all have to line up that way, right? The point is to look at the intent, and the intent is that you don't elect somebody who is an enemy to our country, right, or an enemy to our Constitution. That person can't be elected. That's the point of it, right? The point isn't if there's an exact replica of Jefferson Davis that comes up and this exact scenario happens again, that's the only time you can use the amendment. We wouldn't have used an amendment for that. Our amendments are supposed to be encompassing. They're not supposed to be super, super specific. It's there for a reason. And I think probably most people would agree the reason is that we don't want somebody who is an enemy to our country be allowed to be on the ballot and voted in, right?
Yeah, when you put it that way, that makes sense. That, but it just seems like, I don't know, when was the last time it was used?
I don't know, but let's keep going down that road. So then whose job is it, if you're going to use the 14th Amendment, who has the right to disqualify somebody from a ballot? It's the states, right? Like, the states all control their own ballots.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I don't think
Yeah,
that the federal
states'
government,
rights.
yeah, the federal government, I don't think should be able to say all of you can't have these people on the ballot. But if you're protecting our Constitution as is, you're saying, all right, well, this applies to people who are an enemy to our country, and who gets to decide on the ballots who's an enemy to our country? The states. So it's a really weird case where, like, if they rule in Trump's favor, they are setting a pretty wild precedent that states can't disqualify people from the ballot, that former presidents don't fall under any sort of law that allows you to go after them. Like, they can just be criminals. It sets a lot of scary precedents if you rule in Trump's favor here.
Yes, and that's the scary part, is that, the states that are going to start taking Biden off for treason for the border or whatever. I mean, this opens up a whole can of worms to where the SCOTUS almost has to rule for Trump, or the country goes to shit, if you will.
Well, by that, do you mean
Rule
that there,
for
like, a
Trump
bunch
or
of people will
against
be
Trump?
angry?
He
Is
can't
that
be the office of the
No.
president can't have unlimited immunity.
No, I mean, the country
No.
goes to shit just because different states are going to have different, either they're going to be on the ballot or they're not. It's going to screw everything up, and then erode more of the confidence in our elections. So it's almost like SCOTUS has to,
See, this
L-
is
you know,
this is the kind of stuff, though, and I hate to always harken back to 1930s Germany, but the parallels here are striking in that you have somebody who is not loved by the majority of the people in the country. Is not even really supported by the majority of the people in the country. If he wins election, he will do so with a minority of the people in the country supporting him, and he will have avoided all the laws put in place to allow us to stop a takeover. Now, that was Schmittler. He had like 30% of the vote. You look at Trump's approval ratings, it's like 38%. Like 30, or not approval, excuse me, the polling with RFK. He's going to get like 38% of the vote in that polling. He's not popular. Nobody really is, but he specifically is not, and he's running on, I'm going to come into office. Everybody's picking on me. The whole system is rigged against me. I'm going to come into office. You guys have to give me extra powers that I didn't have before so I can fix this for you, because it's all broken. I need to fix it for you. This is exactly what happened in Germany. Exactly. And same thing, like, I'm going to fix it, and then I'm going to give you guys the power. And then when stuff's not working, we start advocating for some socialist policies, like, I don't know, free college. But free college for who? From Donald Trump. Free college for MAGA. For colleges that only teach what he wants them to teach. Those people are going to get free college. He's now saying, not only when I'm president am I going to take power, but I'm going to give free stuff to all the people who support me. The parallels to every fascist takeover in history and Donald Trump are so alarming, and I feel like you literally have to bury your head in the sand to not see that this looks like every other fascist takeover that's ever happened.
Well, you could say the same thing about removing someone from the ballot. We have world leaders that are saying that we have no right to speak about democracy because of this, because they're removing him from the ballot.
Who
And
are you talking about? Putin? You're talking
I
about
think it's
Russian
it
state
might be that
media?
Argentina
Yeah.
one, maybe.
Yeah, the
That
other
nutcase.
fascist.
Yeah, you're talking about other fascists who say that we should allow fascism to take over our country? Yes.
Yeah, but still, regardless of the source, it makes sense that, I mean, you look at, like, you're talking about Schnazis. That
Gorilla, we cannot allow our president to be beholden to no laws. You know
But
that.
you can't also take away your political opponent like that. That's just as
That's
much
no one's taking away any
authoritarianism
political opponent. Hold on. I just need you can't say that, right? The state of Colorado or the state of Maine deciding that Trump does not meet the standards for their state ballot has nothing to do with Joe Biden. Do you fully grasp that? The reason that if you read the judgment, read the Colorado Supreme Court's judgment, Trump did this to himself. Trump opened himself up to that ruling by the Colorado Supreme Court. Now, yes, the Supreme Court needs to see the rule on this, but you have to get away from saying that's just a talking point. That's a right-wing talking point. Oh, he's doing this to his political opponent. Trump did this to himself, and now states that have autonomy and can legally decide who's on their ballot are saying you don't qualify in this state. That has zero to do with Joe Biden.
Well, let's have an election, huh? I mean, you got Jack Smith with all these you got 4 charges, 91 indictments, all this shit going on. He may not even make it through the whole obstruction of documents. That's the one that I think he's going to be screwed on. But then now you want to take him off the ballot is
Do you think?
I don't know.
Do you
No,
think? Do you think?
hold on.
Wait, hold. Do
Each
you think
state did.
Schmittler
Just
should have
get it
been?
right.
Do you think it would have been okay for the people in Germany in certain provinces to say like, "Hey, we think like this guy's committing crimes. We don't want him on the ballot." And so, but let's keep in mind that in Colorado, and Felisa alluded to this, like it's not Joe Biden. In Colorado, this case was brought by Republicans. That's why they had standing, because if it was brought by Democrats, the court likely would have ruled that there was no harm done there because they weren't going to be voting for him anyway. So there was no harm. But the people that were claiming harm were the Republicans, because we're talking about primary ballots. We're talking about Donald Trump appearing on primary ballots. These aren't that's why the deadline is in January, because we have primary season coming up. So these are Republicans going to the Supreme Court of Colorado saying, this man is trying to hijack our party and we believe is committing or engaged in an insurrection. Please rule on whether or not we can remove him from our primary ballot. So this is Republican on Republican crime here. And you can point to, yeah, there's some funding there from Soros's campaign. There's some left-wing funding. But at the end of the day, that they needed left-wing funding because right-wingers won't fund them. Right-wingers are beholden to Donald Trump. So the Republicans who feel like they have no voice standing up against Trump have had to rely on left-wing money. But when it all boils down to it, this is Republican on Republican. You guys can't blame Joe Biden or the Democrats for this. These are Republicans.
Sure, but I mean, when you look, when this is looked at in history, this is gonna be, it's a bad look, guys. This is what Brazil and all these other
No,
Ukraine,
hold on.
You go after
That's
the political.
that's a
opponent.
narrative. You're talking about a PR, a public relations narrative that's being spread, not the reality.
Well, I
Bro,
think
the reality is states' rights. The
wanna
reality is
get
all
him-
Republicans say we need decentralized government, right? Then states' rights need to trump everything else, except when it flies in the face of Donald Trump, right? This is the hypocrisy of Republicans. Is it states' rights, brother, or not?
Yeah,
Which one?
yeah.
Which one? You can't have it both ways. It's
I'm
completely
pro-state
hypocritical.
rights. I'm definitely
Okay, then
pro.
stay there, gorillas. Stay there.
All right,
Stand
so
on
think
it.
of it this way. Think of it this way, guys. We've had this conversation. I'm pretty sure it was with you guys, and it made sense to me after the fact, right? That you guys got to me on this. it had to do with the abortion and them kicking abortion down to the states, right? And then someone had said, I get it, but the Supreme Court has a responsibility to protect the people. And in that scenario, they're not protecting the women, right? And I agreed, and I was like, holy shit, I never thought of it that way. It's kind of the same thing. You're kicking this power to the states to have the person removed from the ballot. The SCOTUS is going to have to be like, hey, we have a responsibility to this country. Bad shit could happen if this is get him legally. Don't get him by taking him off the ballot is what I think would be best for the country. Put him in jail for obstruction of documents. Don't.
But then he could still be president from jail. That's another problem with our system, is that he could go down in the Georgia case and still be president.
Could you imagine? No way.
Do you think David's like there's enough Republicans who say that they would vote for him and wouldn't vote for anybody else, that he probably has enough leverage on the Republican Party to be convicted and convince them not to take him off the ballot. He definitely has that amount of leverage.
How many MAGA do you think there are? 30 million?
Maybe somewhere around there. I think that's a good get. Like Die Hard, 20 to 30. Yeah. And that's significant. That's enough that Republicans need that support in order to win elections. So if there's enough MAGA, even if it's 10 million MAGA say, I'm not going to vote for Donald Trump, that's enough to hamstring the Republican Party and say, like, look, guys, we're going to lose if we don't run him.
You can see it in the way the moderate Republicans move, right? They cannot deny the MAGA base. You see it every day. They're terrified to say the wrong words because they will be disenfranchised by the MAGA base. So I think
like
however many there are, if it's 10, if it's 20, it's enough, right? And
I don't like
every single poll that the Republicans are doing tells them of the Republican Party, like, we have to be wary of these people. We can't say what we really think.
Right. Yeah, it's scary, the cult, huh?
I think so. I mean, I look at this.
I don't know, Gorilla. Is it scary?
One of the points you made that I thought was a good point is, like, we do need to let democracy happen here. I agree with that, but it's failing to understand that this is democracy, right? We've chosen that the states have the rights to the ballots. And if you want somebody, there's a process to get somebody disqualified from the ballots. And I think that's something that should exist. I don't know if you agree. Do you think we should be allowed to take people off the ballots, or do you think that right should not exist?
Well, maybe at the state. I don't know if the 14th Amendment is really valid anymore. Do you? I mean,
well, you're going to have to interpret it, yeah, because this case is clearly showing that there is not specific language on what to do in a situation. Like, let's just assume Trump did what he's being accused of for the purpose of saying, like, if a president did do this, how would we prosecute it? And this is showing a problem with, obviously we've never had a case like this. And there's a hole in our Constitution where people on the right are saying, look, it's not in there. Like, this doesn't apply to him. So the Supreme Court has to rule, again, does this apply to him? Can we interpret what we have currently and apply it to the present, which we've done historically, right? We don't need the words to match up. Like, we can take intent. They're going to look at the founding documents. They're going to look at letters. They're going to look at the Federalist Papers. They're going to go through all of this. That's going to be the argument. And the argument will be, what did the founders intend? Or when the 14th Amendment was written, what was the intention here? And if they rule that Donald Trump can't be removed from the ballot because of this, then they're essentially saying there's a hole. And now we've got to say, like, we need a new amendment now. Because if they can't use the 14th Amendment and they don't write a new amendment to address this, then that is essentially saying the president can commit treason, the president, or not treason, excuse me, insurrection. They can break the law. They can do anything outside of treason and they're fine. And that's what this case is exposing, is that we don't have case law on this, and our amendments our Constitution is not clear.
You have the whole can of worms that it opens up too. I don't know about Colorado, but I've heard them talk about, well, they're going to impeach the one in Maine for doing this. Then look at the people that have ran and been on the ballot that nobody ever did a deep dive on because they didn't have a chance, like Frank Zappa and all these different people in history that have been on the ballot where they maybe shouldn't have been on the ballot for some reason, but due to the 14th Amendment or a state's argument against it. And they've never done this. They've never pulled them off. I mean,
Yeah,
who
that's
knows
fair,
what
but
certain
it's
secrets
probably because
Frank
it was
Zappa
probably
had.
because they knew that there was no chance, right? Like
Right, so
a lot of people will ignore somebody crazy if they don't have a chance. Like there's people every year that run for president, run for senate that are absolutely insane and have no business
yes,
running for any office. But largely we're like, all right, they're insane. They're not going to get any votes. So what's the point of even trying to get them removed? And there's already a hurdle for that. Like it's difficult. I don't know if you know, it is not easy to get on the ballot, especially the presidential ballot. You have to have a ton of support. You have to have millions of people behind you before you can even get consideration on the ballot. So I don't know if there's like presidential candidates who have been. You said Zappa. Was Zappa on every state?
I'm not
I don't even know
sure.
who that is. I
I
have no
just,
idea who that is.
he's a rock and roll guy.
Okay. Well, yeah. Look,
He's
there's
an,
already a
he's an
barrier to entry
awesome,
there, but Trump's there, and if we can't prosecute somebody, if we can't remove somebody from the ballot because we believe they're a criminal, then that's a real problem. Because in the future, if you get a criminal who's just really popular, it's like, well, fuck it, we're giving our country away.
yeah, yeah. Man, what a nightmare this is that you Democrats have created.
You guys brought
That
Trump
the
into this.
Republican Party have created
You
and
could have
continue
had
to fight out amongst yourselves and
could have had
blame it
Jeb
on
Bush.
the
You could
only
have had
people
Marco
not
Rubio.
involved in this, which is the left. Lil Marco.
Yeah.
Oh, Lil Marco. That's the only good thing Trump's ever done for us is giving us the names Lil Marco and Lion Ted.
I like, again, what I was saying, I don't like any of the people on that debate stage with Christie and DeSantis and
Ugh.
warmongers and Vivek, too young, too weird. I like Christie Nome
Did you see his
of
did you
South
see his
Dakota.
tweet this morning? Vivek
No.
lost his mind this morning, speaking of the debate stage, and he's out on the next like CNN debate, which is I believe scheduled for January 10th. Like Vivek went on some like crazy rant on Twitter and says he's out on that, but instead of just like and makes up all these excuses of why he's out on it. Like basically said like when Vivek did the CNN town hall and they like he said he got cut off. Like just what's her name? I think it's Alicia Miller, Abby Miller, whoever it is, the black woman that did the town hall with Vivek. Like what he started spewing all the January 6th conspiracy theories, and she was like, "What are you talking about? Like, be quiet." So he names that, says that he got cut off during his town hall. See, then he says on December 14th, CNN threatened my campaign on the phone with a cease and desist and had YouTube black out the town hall after it got 200,000+ views on YouTube. So he's saying CNN wouldn't let him use like his conspiracy theory content like from his town hall.
Yeah,
And told
it's
him
their
to take it down.
Yeah, it's theirs.
Yeah, it's their
not his.
content. These
It's
are
their
very
intellectual-
common
yeah, it's
copyright
theirs.
disputes on, you can't take somebody else's content and use it unless they allow you to. Then later on December 14th, he says, CNN notified my campaign that multiple qualifying polls, which the RNC used for each of the RNC debates, mysteriously wouldn't count for CNN's fake debate. So he's saying he's citing obscure polls because there's qualification. What basically happened was Vivek doesn't qualify for the CNN debate on January 10th because he doesn't have like enough percentage in polls that have veracity that are respected, and he tried to use like these obscure like online polls, and CNN's like, no, sorry, like those don't
Like polls
count.
conducted by Trump's. Like,
Yes, like
who's
the-
your favorite
yes.
president?
Yes,
Trump
like
or
true social
Crooked
polls.
Joe, and they're like,
And they won't
Trump
let
won
him use those
99%.
polls.
Yeah.
Exactly. Then he accuses CNN senior media reporter Oliver Darcy wrote a newsletter that castigated his own network for allowing me to infect the public with his conspiracy campaign. So he's just and then he cites what Van Jones says, he was literally shaking when he heard me speak, and my rhetoric is one step away from mustache man propaganda.
Wow.
He cites Anderson Cooper calling his town hall a soliloquy of conspiracy theories. Pamela Brown said that
That's a beautiful way to say it,
CNN
though. Anderson.
Yeah,
That was
see,
really well put.
Anderson Cooper has such a way with words. He really does. CNN anchor Pamela Brown cited Vivek's history of peddling disinformation. CNN anchor Caitlin Collins, who we love, said, "I use a quote reasonable tone to sell sinister people lies who quote aren't paying close attention and might think what he is saying is quote maybe is legitimate." Like he's basically saying that he's been bullied. Like this is how far we are away from the truth. Vivek, if you go on TV and you say a bunch of lies that you have no corroborating evidence or proof from, and then you're called out and by people saying, "Hey, nothing you said was true." And now he's crying on Twitter trying to act like he decided not to do the debate when CNN really said like you don't qualify.
He's not getting the attention he needs. He needs more attention.
Well, he's Trump's proxy, right? Like, let's talk about who Vivek is. He is Trump's proxy in the debate. And I would be shocked if he doesn't get some sort of a bone thrown at him. I think really if Vivek did what was probably best for him, he should go work at the Daily Wire. I think he's more made just to be one of these people, you know, in MAGA, like with a podcast, but he wants a cabinet position. He has been Trump's proxy in these debates. He's doing it all for a cabinet spot.
That's what's so crazy. I think it's so weird that he does what he does. It's like, are you doing this without having any conversation with Trump? Because this is just weird. It's fucking weird that you parrot everything. You parrot everything he says +1, right? Like, I don't know. I don't like the guy. I don't like any of our, if it's not Trump, you guys win as far as I'm concerned. But I also think that, again, if you're going to take Trump out and win this election, you don't do it by removing him from the ballot. You just do it legally with the nuclear secret.
Well, that is but that is legally.
Yeah, but you can't say legally
because
it is legal.
But
that's the judicial process.
That one is special though, because that one is it's too reminiscent of like what you guys always say, like Germany or any country that removes their political.
Give me an example of a time when the second leading, like the first or second leading candidate was removed off the ballots by a fascist.
Well, didn't Zelensky do that with his opposition, Viktor Medvedchuk or whatever the hell?
No, Zelensky. What was that guy's name? I want to say Medvedenko, but that's an old Lakers player. What was the guy's name?
Is it Medvedev? Where did I get that?
Medvedev was
who is that I'm thinking of? Like, why am I thinking that?
I mean, I don't know if this has happened. I'm saying, like, when you say it's reminiscent of all of the fascist takeovers before, the reason I ask that is not because I necessarily know the answer, but I can't think of one. That's not what happened in all the fascist takeovers I know of. That's not what happened. Not one of them went through the court system to get somebody legally removed from the ballot. That doesn't sound, it doesn't ring as fascism to me, and I can't think of another example of a time when that happened. So I don't think I don't think it mimics fascism, honestly. I think it mimics democracy.
So Cambodia's opposition disqualified from election, appeal fails. I don't know the story. I'm just reading the headline.
Okay, now who was that person that was disqualified?
I don't know.
See what I mean? But like, if we're looking at the big cases that we all point at, if you want to look at Argentina, you want to look at Cuba, you want to look at Germany, you want to look at maybe Russia, none of these.
It took Brazil.
Yeah,
Bolsonaro
they all did what
he's barred from the ballot until 2030, like immediately, like the coup that that happened in Brazil that very much mimicked January 6th. They immediately ruled. The judicial branch in Brazil barred him immediately from the ballot until 2030, and then pending like other legal action. But I'm just saying, like, these decisions you can't do a coup, right? They immediately barred Bolsonaro, and we're still pussyfooting around trying to decide what we saw it on TV.
We've got Democrat states that aren't going to go for Trump anyways, just basically saying, like, this guy doesn't get to be on our ballot. Trump's not going to win Colorado anyways. I don't know. No, Trump's not going to win Maine. The two states that everybody's complaining about, like, I don't know if what happened in Maine is okay. To be totally clear, what happened in Maine is not what happened in Colorado. I actually kind of agree. I don't know that the Secretary of State should have
No.
the ability. And I guess there's a challenge process.
It's the
so that's
beginning of the
fine.
process. No,
Right.
it's just the beginning. That's what same thing happened in Colorado. The Secretary of State said like, okay, he's not going to be on the ballot, and then like legal like
But was it
lawsuits
brought by
ensued.
Republicans? That's what I'm at. Like, I don't think it was brought by Republicans in
The
Maine.
the
If it
original. Let
was,
me look
I'm
up.
wrong.
Let me see if I can find the main lawsuit. Let me look at.
But either way, even if it's lawful, I don't know if I love it. I'm just trying to find some common ground there. I don't know that I really think that's a great process if the Secretary of State just has that right to do that without. Yeah, I would probably agree with that. But in Colorado, I feel like it went through the right process. It was brought by Republicans. The Secretary of State removed from the ballot. It was challenged in court. It went to the appellate court. Then it went to the Supreme Court, and now it's going to the Supreme Court of the land. Like that process has been followed correctly. I have no problem with that.
So
But
this
But
did,
that also wait, we need to say that every state has different election process. Like
Right.
and that is what specifically they were speaking about in Colorado and what the Colorado Supreme Court was saying. Like our election laws are written in such a way that Neil Gorsuch, who's on the Supreme Court, was a federal judge. He wrote a decision that was used by the Colorado Supreme Court to say, based on our specific election laws, this is why we as a state have the right to do this, and this is the right call. And it seems like if Maine's whatever Secretary of State Shanna Bellows can make that call, then their state specifically is set up in a different way. So that's the issue, and also why the Supreme Court needs to rule is
But
because
yeah,
each state's laws
all I'm
are
saying is
written in a different way.
if their state is set up that way, I don't like that. That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm not saying that she necessarily broke the law according
But
to her state.
again, we
I
cannot
don't
like it. But if it's legal, it's legal. Because
That's
like,
fine.
isn't
I
what
was
we're
just saying I don't like
talking
it.
about?
And
Is
I think
how
that should be changed if that is their law. I don't know that we should allow one person in any state to be able to control ballot access. I don't think that. I think that would be something that itself would have to go to the Supreme Court. I don't like the idea of the Secretary of State having control of ballot access because, again, turn this around and imagine somehow we get like a conservative Secretary of State in Maine, and they bar the Democrat from the ballot, and they get to make that decision unilaterally.
yeah,
That
as the judge and jury and the whole deal.
right,
That's
that would bother
too
me.
much power. And since I pulled that article up, I want to tell you that it was the Candlelight Party in Cambodia, and they
That's
disqualified
romantic.
him. And listen to this. It says the NEC had disqualified the Candlelight Party from registering for the election because it had submitted a photocopied document rather than the original. So
Oh,
that
okay. Well, so that's pretty good. So still, we don't have an example
well,
of
okay.
somebody removing their political opponent from the ballot.
This is what I've got
Yeah.
here. So as it applies to Maine, it looks like the state law requires the Secretary of State to adjudicate ballot challenges to candidates' eligibility. So that's why
Who brought and
it is
who
her
was
call.
that ballot challenge
Shanna
brought by, Lena?
Bellows. Oh no,
are they
it doesn't.
are they a caucus?
It doesn't. This
So
I'll look, but I can't find it. But yeah, it just says that it's her job in Maine to adjudicate ballot challenges. So someone challenged him being on the ballot, which, like you're saying, is probably Republicans or independents, and that is her adjudication of the challenge. That's her job in
Yeah, I
this
don't love.
state.
I gotta say, I don't love that. I don't love that
Okay,
Maine
well.
set it up that way.
But
do they
again,
caucus?
another state abiding by their state laws,
Agreed.
right? Like that's the point. It's not, we can all think like, I don't really like this or I love this, but it's just a matter of these are their state laws. Do states have rights or not? Like,
have
right?
that same
Like that's,
conviction when they're not allowing abortions, though, Felice. I mean, it goes both ways. It's like,
no, but that's my point. You're not listening to me. I am not the person constantly screaming states' rights.
yeah,
Like this
right.
is the Republican Party. Like
Yeah,
every
yeah.
5 minutes, states' rights about the Second Amendment,
Not the
states' rights
Republican
about
Party so
slavery,
much.
states' rights about slavery, states' rights about abortion. Oh, but not states' rights when it comes to who can be on the ballot. It's the irony. Is it states' rights or not? Republicans,
Right,
make a
right.
choice.
But it's not a conservative fight. It's a forefathers fight, right? It depends on your interpretation of what they intended our country to be. Now, my question is this. In Maine, do they caucus for who's going to be the GOP candidate? Are they a caucus state? That's what I wonder. Or do they leave it blank and you have to write it in? What power exactly?
Okay. Challenges of Kimberly Rosen, Thomas Savilio, Ethan Strimling, Paul Gordon, Mary to primary nomination petition. So yes, Republican voters challenged
Okay.
Trump. And if you want to find the actual documents of this, look up a political article called Maine Strips Trump from the Ballot, Inflaming Legal War Over His Candidacy. And
So
then there's a link to the actual legal challenge in there.
and then is this going to the Supreme Court then of Maine?
No, this is the legal challenge that was filed, and
No.
according to
Excuse
I
me.
don't
That
know.
wasn't the question. I imagine
know.
that. Well,
I heard your
I
question.
imagine that's
I don't
the check,
know the
though,
answer.
right? I mean, that has to be
So
the check. So this is the same as Colorado, then. This is no different than Colorado, then, right? Republicans brought the challenge. It went to the Secretary of the State. The Secretary of State removed Trump from the ballot. It was challenged in court. So the next step for Maine is that this gets challenged in court. This actually sounds, now that you read it, this sounds exactly
that's
like
what
what
I was
happened in
trying to
Colorado.
say. Yeah.
Maine
Yeah.
SCOTUS.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Maine
I have to
SCOTUS.
talk through it myself. Sorry. Okay. Yeah, I'm actually good with it now. You convinced me. Well done, Felice. W. Felice.
There's
I looked.
there's separate challenges. The first two challenges, so there one filed by Marianne Royal and then one Kimberly Rosen is a second challenge. So there's a third challenge. So these are all individual challenges that were filed by Republican voters. The third challenge by Paul Gordon, called the Gordon Challenge. Yeah. I conclude that Trump. So there was three challenges by Republican voters, and then it's her job to conclude that he's off the ballot. And then I'm sure, yeah, it can go to the Supreme Court of Maine. But yeah, this looks very similar to what happened in Colorado.
So
Hey,
in the end, I
Gorilla,
think,
real quick. I'll let you
yeah.
go. I'll give you the last word. I have some people waiting in the box, but go ahead
Okay.
with your. I'll give you the last word.
So in the end, I think it's going to come down to I don't know. Maybe you guys would agree that our Supreme Court is going to have to define insurrection, and that remember this rally that he spoke at wasn't even his rally, so it can't be his quote unquote people. I don't know. It depends on how you look at it.
Well, no, listen, I suggest read the Colorado Supreme Court's filing, like their ruling. And we talked about this with Barrister, how they defined the difference between insurrection, rebellion, and I can't remember, and riot. It's all laid out. And then they rule on those are matters of fact that have been ruled on by the Colorado Supreme Court. Now,
Sure.
the Supreme Court could change the ruling of fact and say, we disagree with how they see it. But yeah, if anyone wants to learn the difference or the legal argument of rebellion, insurrection, and riot, it's all laid out in the Colorado Supreme Court argument.
I can't believe that it wouldn't be one of the 91 charges. I mean, he's never even been charged with insurrection. Jack Smith certainly would charge him if it was there, right?
Okay,
So,
but also that's not it. You're not required to be impeached and found guilty by the Senate in order to be have committed insurrection. Like
right,
that's
right.
not part of the process.
All right. Well, good talk. You can rotate me out.
Hi,
And
brother.
all the payninas, fuel me. Keep them coming.
They don't
Later.
fuel you to pay Nina, but they fuel you. I like that.
Bye,
All right.
guys.
See it. All right. Let's bring up Bonita Bandit. You've been waiting for a while. Thanks for being patient, Bonita Bandit. Welcome. Are you there? Bonita Bandit? Are you there? Is your mic not working? Bonita Bandit. I'll keep singing. Now you're muted, it looks like. All right, let's see. All right, well, Bonita Bandit, if you figure out your mic situation, come on back. Justin, you were next. Hey,
Hi, guys.
Justin. Hey.
So real quick, in reference to what you guys were touching about, I've been doing my best in trying to figure out the Colorado decision, reading it and all that. And I don't think they took this angle, but in plain text, it talks about the duty to act and what you don't do if you have the duty to act, and it can be considered an insurrection. And we all know Trump was told that there was going to be violence that day. We all know he sat there for hours on end. So even if they kick it back and they say, it's not insurrection on the grounds that they already cited, they can throw it back and say he had a duty to act and he didn't act, and that's grounds for being considered an insurrection also in plain text. So I'm not even too worried if they kick it back and saying these current things are not insurrection. I think they have in plain text when he has a duty to act and he didn't act. At least that's my
I
opinion.
have something to add to that, Justin. Yeah. So just to add to what Justin's saying, I agree. There is a lot of talk about duty to act, and if you notice, Trump's latest PR and marketing shift is like yesterday, which is in our outline. Like Trump went on this crazed rant about Liz Cheney, but not just Liz Cheney, specifically the January 6th committee, and tried to push the absolute lie, which anyone could just Google and figure out as a lie, that the January 6th committee deleted evidence. And why is that? I was been listening to a lot of legal analysts say it's probably to head off the duty to act argument. Like he wants to try to say, oh, well, I called up the National Guard, but the January 6th committee destroyed the evidence of it or something, which is a complete lie. They didn't destroy any evidence, but it's just like for low information voters who just hear any argument from Trump and take it at face value. That's what his rant was about Liz Cheney and the January 6th committee is. That's what I believe it is. That's what many legal analysts see it as, is him trying to be like, oh, when there's no proof and I obviously am the president and should have called up the National Guard, like I'm planning on alluding to the fact that that evidence of me doing it was destroyed by the January 6th committee, which is obviously not true. And he's never, it's the Mueller, I can't remember whoever the lady is, the Mueller, whatever. She does like legal commentary on Twitter.
Mueller,
But she
she
was
wrote?
pointing out, yeah, Mueller, she wrote. She was
Yeah.
pointing out, she's like, his lawyers have never even subpoenaed legally in the January 6th case, like asked for the January 6th stuff. Trump just pretends that he has, but they never even made a legal claim like asking to see it because they didn't destroy any evidence, and there's nothing for Trump's case there. It's just the latest in the PR marketing machine. But yeah, so good point, Justin. That's what I was trying to say in a
He casts
long-winded
this
way.
huge net with a bunch of issues, but there's a ton of issues, but it's shallow in substance. As soon as you press them on anything, they have nothing to back up anything other than their headline claim. And you can head them off, but the problem is they do these mental backflips and you just flip to the next talking point. And you wind up smacking your head against the wall. But to be honest, that's some of the best lives you had were with David. You know what I mean? I just love watching him.
I gotta tell you,
Answer that.
Justin, you really fucked a lot of people up showing up with a fish in your profile picture and not being MAGA. You really threw a lot of people for a loop.
I know,
like,
what's
when you see
happening?
somebody
I didn't
holding
think
a
I'm MAGA
fish.
until I talk.
Yeah. It's like, oh man, this guy's gonna come up with some QAnon shit, and here you go, being sensible.
Thanks for having me up, though. Keep up the
Yeah.
good work.
Thanks, Justin. Appreciate it.
What is that, like a swordfish? That was a giant fish. I'm telling you, my next business is going to be like helping men understand how to make dating profiles, like what women are actually interested in seeing. And it's not giant fish.
What is
This
it?
is it's anything but giant. Show us a picture of you with a cat. Men, if you have a cat, show us a picture of your cat. Show us anything that says, I am not a serial killer. I have empathy. That's what women are looking for. I will not take you to a second location where you will never be seen or heard from again. That's what women are looking for, men. Just signs that you're not an unaliver.
Okay. What are some other pictures you might? So a cat. What
Yeah,
other
like
pictures are a
anything.
no go?
No, just okay, your truck, that's wrapped in like a Trump 2024. Like we don't need to know that you have a giant truck.
So is this just fish or just no dead animals in general? No dead animal pictures, period.
No, and like show you have a sense of humor. Like for me, I'm just like men just are looking at looks, but women aren't looking for that. Like show me you're sarcastic and funny. Like men like I would rather date somebody on looks scale like 1 to 10 that's like a 2 who's intelligent and funny. That's like a 10 to me. If you're like the best looking person I've ever seen but you're not funny and you have no interest in like like learning, then that's not attractive. So like it's not just about like pictures, it's just about showing like, hey, I have empathy, I'm funny, I'm caring, I'm kind, I'm
Okay.
quick-witted.
Somebody said don't include your wife
So you're
and
saying I
kids in
have a
your picture
chance? Yes.
on your dating
Yes.
profile. Don't include wife and kids. I would say maybe do. Then you're at least being, at the very least, that
Well,
person is
that's like
being more
Ashley Madison.
transparent.
Yeah, that's like
Yeah.
Ashley Madison. You know what Ashley Madison is? That's like dating pro. It's like date. It's a date. If you
Yeah.
don't know what Ashley Madison is, it's like a dating site for affairs.
I remember when that leak happened, there were a lot of people
Oh
that
yeah, yeah, yeah.
went
My own. I
down.
had some friends. That's when I like worked in corporate America. There were many scared people.
I've long wondered about that because even if you were going to make a profile, why would you make a profile when anybody trying to catch you can also, like, your spouse can just make a profile and find you, right? Like,
Well, yeah, and I think that you're not using like your real name. I think what happened with the Ashley Madison leak that was super scary was like people's credit card information was leaked, right? So like the actual
huh.
proof, like isn't that what the breach with Ashley Madison was? Was a credit card information? Because
I
who
feel
in
like a
their
lot of
right mind is
people's.
on a site to set up an affair using their actual information or actual photo? Like no sane person is doing that.
Hey, Michael.
Hey,
Hey,
I
hey, hey, hey.
I got a great solution for it all.
Can't wait.
We take Missouri and Texas and Florida and the rest of the Republican states, and we get rid of Joe Biden from the ballots. Get rid of him from the ballots.
Okay. Then what?
Along with-
You can anybody in those states like republic or can, but it's not Republican voters, right? It probably have to be Democratic voters can file a
No, we just
petition to have him removed for the ballot and saying for the following reasons. Anybody can file a lawsuit and say as a result of this guy being on the ballot, I have been disenfranchised in the following ways.
it,
Anybody could do that, but a Republican in red state is not being hurt by Joe Biden being on the ballot, right? Because they're not voting
yeah,
for him anyways.
doesn't matter. He don't need to be on the ballot. We get rid of him.
Okay, but you're not listening to what I'm saying. Like the reason, like in the Colorado case, it was brought by two Republicans, I believe, and like an independent voter, because they are the ones being disenfranchised if Trump is on that ballot. Like not so in red states, it would have to be Democratic voters or independent voters, which I'm sure you could find anyone to bring any lawsuit. But you also have to have a point, right? You have to have evidence.
No, I don't have no point. I mean,
It's honest.
it's gonna be 2024 is gonna be a shit show.
Yep. Well, that's what happens when you put Donald Trump in any scenario. There's never been a scenario in his life that he didn't immediately just like turn into chaos. He only operates in chaos. He has no idea how to operate in any other way. So yeah, when Donald Trump's involved, it's going to be chaotic.
No, it doesn't matter who wins. If Donald Trump or Joe Biden wins, no one's gonna believe it.
No, I will believe it. Just MAGA won't
No,
believe it.
no,
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 I
no
will.
one
I
will
will
believe
believe
it.
it.
No,
No, I
no,
will.
that you're just lying to yourself because no one's gonna
Okay.
believe. If Donald Trump wins, no one's gonna believe it. They're gonna say he stole it,
All
and
right.
say that their guy won,
All
and
right.
vice versa.
Well, I would
I
probably
mean,
disagree with you because generally
this
speaking.
country's pretty much
Oh,
dead. You can stick a stake in this country.
all right. Well, I guess we should all give up then.
I'm praying to my Chinese overlords.
All right.
Hail
What are
Chinese
you praying?
overlords!
What are you
Hey,
asking for in
Chinese
those?
overlords!
In
Please
those?
forgive
Wait,
these
hold on,
people.
Michael, hold on,
These people
Mike.
I don't agree with
You're
these
praying to
people
President
or
Xi.
Chinese overlords. Yes,
What are you
I
praying
also
for,
work for Master Xi. What a coincidence.
Michael? What? Sorry, you got me. Oh, Michael, you got me. What are you praying for specifically? What are you? Okay.
Where did he go? I did not do that.
I don't listen. I don't. Maybe that's. I was iffy how to handle that guest. We'll just leave it at that. I was just iffy on that. But I did want to know what the prayer was. I did want to know how does a prayer to Xi sound? Do you start it off with, Dear Gigi? Does he have a different name? How do you refer to him in
I
prayer?
don't know. Master G. That's what I like. Personally,
Isn't
I
it-
consider him like Master. You know, like what's the guy's name? Like the rat on the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Was it
Splinter.
Splinter? Master Splinter. That's how I think of.
I'm more of a Master
G.
Oogway fan. That's more updated version. I think Master Oogway had a little bit better wisdom and had a better training program. You know Master Oogway?
Okay. No, who is that?
Oh, that is Kung Fu Panda.
Oh God. Yeah. I
It's my
actually have
favorite
seen that
animated movie ever. Thank you. Some
Really?
people
I
got
want to
it.
see. You know what looks really funny? That new migration movie.
It's unbelievable.
You should
I
take your
went and
daughter.
I did for her birthday.
When I was a
It's
teacher,
hilarious.
yeah, children's movies are very intelligent, very funny. Like I love kids movies.
We had a blast. She has a hard time sitting through movies. It's the first time she's ever sat through a movie because we go to this theater that also has an arcade. So usually halfway
Oh, so
through
you
she's
took
like,
her to see Migration.
yeah.
That looks really funny.
And usually
Let me
she wants
see
to just
it.
go play the arcade halfway through, but she made it through the whole time and then danced after. The music was good. The writing was good. That was one of the best animated shows I've seen in a long
The
time.
little
I
girl
loved it.
duck. What's her name? Gwen Mallard. She seems so funny.
I don't remember the names, to be honest.
Yeah, sorry. I need to
uh,
see that movie.
But I liked. It took me halfway through the video or the movie to realize that Danny DeVito was the voice of one of the ducks.
Oh,
in
there's
there,
there's
Grandpa Duck.
many famous
Yeah.
people in that show.
All right, back to our stories. For those of you who are here, let's see
Oh,
if we
wait.
get to 150 real quick.
Yeah, let's tap the screen.
And if you're MAGA and you're near, I saw a little what little farmer girl? I can't remember.
gonna
She used
invite
to come
Eric.
up here. I can't remember. She's still sent little country girl. That's what it is. I saw a little country girl come in. You're welcome. If you're MAGA and you haven't talked in a long time, or you just want to get up and talk, I'm in a good mood. And I even told Felice I'm trying better not to talk over our guests and to let them speak, even if I hate what they have to say, or I feel like they said something wrong. So MAGA, great news. I'm gonna let you say more misinformation today than normal. Not like a lot more, but a little bit more. Because that's my New Year's resolution. is
Now's your chance to come up here and yell something crazy.
Yeah, if you felt like you need a little time to get your nonsense out, I'll give you a little time. Let's get back. I'm trying to pull up. I lost the.
Yeah,
there
I
it
have
is.
many. So yeah, we talked about Vivek. Yeah, so just to recap about the Vivek thing. So basically, apparently he won't be there next, which I believe is Wednesday, the 10th, for the CNN town hall because he didn't qualify. So he went on Twitter and came up with a bunch of excuses for why he didn't qualify. Let's see. We went through Michael Cohen. Oh, Prophet Julie Green. You guys, Prophet Julie is back. MAGA Prophet Julie has a message for everyone here. And I feel like it's my
Praise
job.
Julie.
Praise
Praise
Julie.
Julie.
To bring Prophet Julie, MAGA Prophet Julie, and who I'm just very jealous of. I don't know why I bother to like do all this fact checking and like say things that are true on the internet because like the people who are making money just yell whatever. I need to stop. Anyways, here's MAGA Prophet Julie. What I want to note before I play this is just listen to the projection. Like, are you sure, MAGA Prophet Julie, you're not talking about the far right? You're just not talking about Trump?
She's not sure. I checked.
My
She's
children,
not sure.
the time has come. A time that you have been waiting for. A reinstatement. A shift of power. A new government in control. An overthrow and a takeover in this nation from the hands of the wicked to the hands of the righteous. The fall has come, but time is drawing near. A coup is about to be disrupted and annihilated, and everyone a part of it exposed and removed. So, my children, hold on. 2024 will start out with a bang. So, brace for a mighty impact coming to shake you loose from the chains that bind you. It will look worse, but remember my words. This means your enemy's days are running out.
Thank you, Prophet Julie, for just describing that Trump's going to jail. I mean, it's
That
like
was
they take whatever's about to happen to Trump and then pretend it's about Joe Biden. But it's like, thank you for confirming what I already know, which was like Trump's going to jail.
she's the least
She
I
talks
guess
so slow too.
yeah,
Yeah.
her prophecies suck. They're not flowery. We gotta spice that up a little bit
No,
more.
she gets weird. She gets weirder sometimes. That was like a more general one that just sounded like she's talking about Trump's, like, just, okay, Trump's going to jail, but then she pretends it's Joe Biden. But she gets some crazy ones. The ones where she just is like, praise Putin. She does some weird
But
stuff.
is she the question is why
She's making a
if
killing. That's all I
if
know.
MAGA God knows this is coming, has anybody asked MAGA God why MAGA God doesn't just stop it? Like, why did MAGA God allow Joe Biden to get in there in the first place?
Don't make
What's
sense. Don't make
what's
sense.
MAGA
Joe
God? Did he
Biden.
take a
Well, I mean, these are
vacation?
the same people that say Joe Biden is either living in the basement of the White House and somebody else is wearing his skin. Like, these are these people walking around giving speeches. Like, these are the same people. So we don't know what's really going on. You know what I mean? It just depends on the day, like what the story is.
I just think MAGA Jesus or MAGA God, whoever it is, it honestly isn't doing a whole lot. I think they're a little bit checked out. They allowed 2020 to happen. How does an election get stolen from God? How did that happen? How did you steal something from the most powerful person or being ever to exist? I don't know how that happened.
Well, if Trump gets reelected, I'm possibly going to become a MAGA prophet. I don't know.
You're just gonna go full. We may have
Well,
to.
I have a whole other persona. You guys don't know this about me, and I won't tell you what my name is. Like you were saying earlier, you need to get a new Truth Social account. Like I have a whole persona on right wing media. I can't tell you my
Is that
name,
real?
but I have followers. Yeah,
What do you do?
yeah. I'm living a whole other life.
How many
on far-
followers do you have?
Quite a bit.
Like how many?
People are really following me, like thousands.
You're not joking?
No, what? No, I'm always on far right media.
What is
I
this?
have a lot of it.
Wait.
Just living.
What are
all
you
over
doing? Are you
life.
putting up MAGA content? What are you doing?
No, people just follow you when you make sense to them. You know, like
What kind of set? Like, what's the
I
last
don't
thing
know.
you?
People started following me, and I didn't stop them. So now I just have the whole other life.
But are you just like saying things like
I can't say
2020
my
election?
name, but I
Are
wish
you
I could tell you because I have a really good far right name too.
Will you tell me offline?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Like I don't know if I ever want
So
to
you're-
trust anyone with that.
You're prepared to just shift the grift if it
Yeah,
happens.
just to turn.
'Cause we're just
and
grifting.
just start a whole nother life. Yeah,
That's amazing.
gotta.
I
an
feel like I
eject
should have
button.
known that before now.
Yeah, because then I'm just gonna be like, am I a communist that needs to be arrested? Like once Trump gets elected, or am I this other person? Who knows?
What platform do you have your most most followers on your
I
alt
don't
right
know.
account?
Like Truth Social and
Killing it on
Getter.
Truth Social.
Yeah, killing it.
What's
I mean, it's not
engagement
hard
like?
to be. It's not hard to. Just stop. Whatever. We can talk about it later. But
I'm
yeah,
fascinated by this.
I spend most of my time on far right media. Yeah, Facebook. Mainly, my most followers are my Facebook group, the angry Facebook group that I host. Anyways, I have to say this. Okay, funny things that happened today. I have to go over this. So the end of every year, Roger Stone. This is the only time once a year I agree with Roger Stone is when he puts out his worst dress list, which is just an opportunity for him to talk shit about Steve Bannon because
Yeah.
they do not get along behind the
Not
scenes.
friends.
Listen to this quote. He puts the ugliest picture of Steve Bannon up, and this is Roger Stone's quote of why Steve Bannon is on the worst dress list. Quote:
Can I be honest?
"Sloppy
I
s-
thought
What?
that was one of Steve Bannon's better pictures. I've seen.
Oh yeah,
Steve
no,
Bannon
there's
look way
worse. There's
than
worse
that.
No, yeah, there's like ones. There's way worse pictures than this. But I think
this
he was
was
just
him
trying to.
in
No, but
Congress, I
it's
think.
okay. Listen to this quote, you guys. This is the only time I ever agree with Roger Stone. Once a year, Roger Stone and I agree. Quote, Sloppy Steve has made my worst dress list for a number of years. I don't understand why he wears button-down shirts on top of button-down shirts, or the whole clad all in black, quote, fat Johnny Cash vibe he's got going. And what's with the 3 pens clipped to his shirt? Does he own a necktie? Would it hurt to shave or wash his hair? Unkempt, slovenly, inappropriate. I mean...
Yeah, well, Steve Bannon's got Riz. I think that's the difference here, is that Roger Stone has to dress to impress, and Steve Bannon just shows up and he's like, "This is who I am." He's got it, and he has incels everywhere just simping for him. He's killing it. I think Steve Bannon understands his target audience, and he's gonna dress like he's sleeping on the street that night every single day, and I think that works for him. I kind of applaud it. I think he's a better dresser than Roger Stone, personally.
Well, yeah, I mean, Roger Stone shouldn't really be talking about people, period.
Yeah, it's hard to talk about other people's
Once a
looks
year,
when you
I do
have a
agree.
tattoo of Richard Nixon on your back. I think it's hard to
The
judge like, what
old
other
Richard
people
Nixon tramp stamp is pretty damning. At that point, you're no longer allowed to have an opinion.
do. Speaking of tramp stamps, tough weekend for
What?
Lauren Boebert. Tough few days for Lauren Boebert.
Lauren Boebert is a mess. I would love. Speaking of Steve Bannon, let's play that clip. So Lauren Boebert is, just making up lies now about why she's switching. There's the only reason Lauren Boebert switched from the 3rd to 4th district. Now her new story is her like hero arc. This is her like, I actually have saved the 3rd district from
I did it, guys.
dark Hollywood money.
I did it.
She had to leave the 3rd district to save them from no, Boebert, really, the 3rd district is a swing district. You cannot win in a swing district. So you went, her other latest thing is like, the 3rd and 4th district are right next to each other. Actually, they're not. They're on the exact opposite sides of the state. And then at the very southern tip,
Yeah, they're touching
the two
tips.
districts touch. Yeah. So
they're touching tips, that's it. And then they're like this.
yeah,
By the way,
so
great gerrymandering by Colorado to make those districts. By the way, they're like
I know.
2 shoes meeting together at one point on the outsides. They're like, make sure. And if you looked at Colorado, you just look at a population map, you're like, okay, all the conservatives live here, and that's what they've done. They've just made that U shape at the bottom. That's all the conservatives.
Anyway, so let me play this. This is the quote. Lauren Boebert was on Steve Bannon's show, basically saying some delusional stuff, making up excuses and pretending that like she's doing something for Colorado's Republican Party by switching districts, which she's not. This is a 100% selfish act and a last desperate attempt to stay in Congress. She abandoned her constituents in the 3rd district, and if the people in the 4th are like, oh look, she just abandoned these people and ran across the state, like if that's what you want, I guess we'll see. But listen to her tell this story, her hero story, to Steve Bannon.
$10 million out of Aspen, and I take the other places in your district. It's all flowing through there because of you. You believe by switching to the 4th, you're cutting off that money will cease, and you'll give a MAGA candidate a shot to win in Colorado 3rd.
Steve, that's exactly correct. They do not have policies that they are running on. They're simply running against Lauren Boebert. And it's not just Aspen that the money is coming from. It's coming from Hollywood. When you have Barbara Streisand coming in and donating to the Democrat, when you have Ryan Reynolds coming in and donating to the Democrat, it shows you that Hollywood is trying to buy their way into Congress. You have George Soros and his dark money groups that have already spent $2 million in a non-election year in Colorado's 3rd district. And so this cuts that funding that they're receiving now and gives an opportunity for conservatives to have a stronger presence in Colorado. So I'm not abandoning my district. I love Colorado's 3rd district and will continue to fight for each and every person who's in the district. And like I said, these are bordering.
I love Colorado's 3rd district. I am not abandoning it. No, that is exactly, specifically what you're doing.
Lauren Boebert is.
I will continue to fight for the constituents of the 3rd district once I abandon and leave them.
I think maybe the reason I've liked Lauren Boebert in the past is because she reminds me of my father, in that he loved me so much he
Abandoned her.
abandoned me. Yeah, he just like he abandoned me and went somewhere else and pretended I didn't exist anymore. That's true love, folks. That is truly how you show your love.
I know.
When I listen to
Childhood
it, like
trauma.
I watch her, like I've made a video about this. I've seen the clip, but when I hear it without the video, it sounds to me like somebody who's just getting into impressions doing a Sarah Palin impression. She does that stupid fucking thing with her voice where when she thinks like she's making a good point, she's like, when Barbara Streisand and Ryan Reynolds, and she does like that little bit of laughter in her voice. I can't do it. She does that. She does it on the house floor.
Yeah, I
Anytime
know.
she's
It's
making
annoying.
like
I know
what
what you're
she
talking
thinks
about.
is a good point and clever, she gets that like laughy, and I just want to
Like
throw
she's
up.
like, look what I've done here, and it's like, no, you
Yeah.
did nothing. You did nothing. You abandoned your constituents while still representing them, or going around acting like you're doing them a favor when you're abandoning them.
Yeah, make no mistake about it, Lauren Boebert. Money from Barbara Streisand and Ryan Reynolds are pouring in because for the entirety of your time in Congress, you have run around like a fucking lunatic. You do crazy things all the time. You call people that
And
are
he wants to
Muslim
date
in
her.
Congress the Jihad Squad. Like you get kicked out of Beetlejuice for
Said
trying to give your
horrific
man
things about
some.
the trans community.
Yeah.
Remember the nightclub in wherever it was in Colorado, and the horrific statements she made about the LGBTQ, basically alluding to the fact that they deserved what happened. I mean, yeah,
You have caused, yeah, she
horrific.
has caused problems for the
Horrific.
GOP, and people outside of the GOP are like, we hate you so much that even though we don't live there, we are going to donate money against you. That's how despised you are. And in typical MAGA fashion, when this happens to MAGA, when like the majority of the country rejects them, it like entrenches them. They double down and they're like, I must be doing something right. Pro tip, if like 80% of the country, and it might be 90 at this point, think that you're scum, you probably are. It's not that 90% of the country hasn't figured it out or that 90% of the country is dumb. It's you. If you're always the person that people are going after, it's probably you. Because at the end of the day, you're a junior congresswoman who has passed no real legislation, who has no real power. You are in a party where they don't actually respect what you say. They use you as a prop. You don't have any real power. You're just that disgusting to everybody. Nobody's afraid of Lauren Boebert. Nobody's afraid that she's going to have influence. Nobody's afraid that she is going to convince a bunch of people to follow her. They just think she's gross. That's all this is, Lauren Boebert. No, it's not a fear thing. It's
And if
not
she
you being
cared
picked on.
about if she cared about Colorado, she would stay in that district, right? She created all of these problems in that district. Now all of this money has flooded into that district to unseat her. And what she's basically doing is assuring whoever else takes her place's destruction, right? That's what she's saying. Like all of this money has been given to a Democratic opponent in that district. So instead of standing up and saying, hey, like I created this problem, these are my constituents, I'm going to fight for them like a normal person would do. Nope, she's just abandoning. That district will be lost. And now, why would the voters of Colorado's 4th district want her?
Yeah, she took a red district and turned it blue, and now she's like, I better go to another red district. Like, if honest to God,
Just goes around.
if I was a Republican, I'd be like, is she working for the Democrats? What's going on here? I hear her rhetoric. I know it sounds like our alt-right stuff, but everywhere she goes, Democrats get more popular. That's not good. Like maybe she is. Maybe
Well,
Democrats
that's what's
are brilliant.
so
and
crazy about
maybe
her
that's
saying
why I
she's
like
fighting
Bobo.
for
Maybe
the
I'm in on
Republican
it.
Party. She's
Maybe
saying
this
she's
was my
fighting.
plan all along.
We played this clip last Friday. She says she's fighting for the Republican Party, but the chair of the Colorado Republican Party was on MSNBC last week and was like, no, we think what she's doing is wrong. It's despicable. And like, we don't know how Colorado voters are going to trust her. So, no, this wasn't something that the Colorado Republican Party asked her to do. As a matter of fact, it's the opposite.
Are you playing it?
Nope. playing
I'm
what?
very sorry.
Oh,
I
no.
got a message from Jen that I was reading, and I thought you were going into a video. I
Oh no,
apologize.
I want to say something else though. No, this is what I want to talk about next though, about Jared Moskowitz. And so, Jared Moskowitz is he represents the 23rd District of Florida, freshman congressman, legal eagle. He sits next to Dan Goldman in the oversight and accountability hearings, and they've made it their mission to just make James Comer's life a living hell. And I mean, if I could say something that the Democrats really focused on is like every single Republican sham hearing, most of our people on the Oversight and Accountability Committee are all lawyers, and they showed up to litigate and won. And so I don't know if you guys are
It's
aware,
kind of an unfair fight.
Comer started whining on Twitter that, it's an unfair fight and Jared Moskowitz and Dan Goldman shouldn't be able to be Hunter Biden's lawyers, bring up points that talking about the sham impeachment hearing and how Republicans wouldn't stay in it because it was so shameful. Republicans left the impeachment hearing because the Democratic lawyers were just ripping the case to shreds. Their own lawyer that was a witness for the Republicans said there's not enough to impeach. So anyways,
Yeah, he has. What's his name again? That the guy that was the what is it? He's got a nice
Jonathan
head of hair.
Turley?
Yeah,
Turley?
Turley. Every time they haul that poor guy.
It
If
comes
they
back every
invite me to
time.
Congress again and I'm Turley, I'm like, fuck you. I'm not going there anymore.
After the
Because
last time.
Yeah, every time he shows up, there's like 20 clips of him just getting demolished. They're like, now, here's an example of you saying that if you would have that we couldn't have an impeachment without a vote. We shouldn't have an impeachment inquiry without a House vote. And he's like, yeah, I did say that. And they said, now you said that would be illegitimate, right? Yeah. Okay. And now you're here as their witness for this illegitimate process that you 2 years ago said would be completely illegitimate. And now you're their star witness. And he's like, yeah, well, yeah. He doesn't even have an answer. He just is like, yeah, I did say that.
Starting with the first
gets
Twitter
dunked on
hearing,
every
he shows
time.
up at every Republican sham hearing and is just dragged out of there by the Democratic lawyers. Like, it's so sad. The last time, what they just were like, oh, we'd like to talk to you, Jonathan Turley, about you defending children marrying adult men in fundamentalist movement.
Yeah.
Because
His
Jonathan
Venmo
Turley's a
trend-
libertarian. So just to clarify, like, yeah, he works on setting legal he just doesn't believe it's the court's place to be litigating any of this stuff. So he has defended like polygamists and things who are in child marriages, but not because he's an advocate for it, but like they're just genius at just smearing this man, just making him look absolutely awful. So anyways, long story short,
his Venmo has 2 words ever. Cash Patel.
What?
Cash Patel. Cash Patel. That's got to be his whole Venmo transaction.
Oh,
And every
yeah,
every time he goes before Congress, they have to double it. There's no way he's not getting a fortune at this point because he knows he's just going to go in there and get dunked on. So he's like, look, if I'm going to get dunked on like this, I'm going to need enough money to retire on because nobody's going to take him seriously ever again after this.
because they can't get anyone else. Like because think about him in the Twitter hearing, just was laughed out of there. It's like, are you claiming to be an expert witness, but you aren't one? And he's like, yes. Like, it was ridiculous. So anyways, Jared Moskowitz puts out this like clip, like reel of just humiliating stuff about James Comer over the last year. And basically put it on Twitter. It was like, can't wait for 2024. Because the 118th Congress, James Comer spent the first year being humiliated at every turn. So here we go. This is my new favorite.
The Oversight Committee has been at this for years, and they have so far not been able to provide any concrete evidence that Joe Biden personally profited from his son Hunter's overseas business.
I do not believe that the current evidence would support articles of impeachment.
He's making your investigation sound like a joke, and he's trying to make you look like a joke. And then half of America sees that, and they think your investigation is a joke.
You look like a smurf here, just going around and all this stuff.
I'm trying to introduce evidence.
You've already had your share of evidence. No, I'm not going to give you your time back. We can stop the clock.
Yes or no? Do you believe that this is now officially the Joe Biden bribery allegation? And do you believe that you will be able to prove that? Jim Comer.
I sure hope so.
And then at the end, because I don't know if you guys remember this, but one of James Comer's famous freakouts about Jared Moskowitz and Dan Goldman and them constantly harassing him during oversight and accountability hearings, he called Jared Moskowitz a smurf that wouldn't stop harassing him. So at the end of the
And he called
video,
Goldman a
it's
trust
just
fund baby
Jared
or something.
Moskowitz dressed in a smurf outfit.
Yeah,
But it
that's,
just
oh, is
says,
that why
"See
he wore
you."
the blue?
Yes, because
I didn't
James
know
Comer
that.
called him a smurf, and he's like, "You're just a smurf that's just always around."
How did
And so
I not?
that's why the end of the video is Jared Moskowitz dressed like a smurf, and it just says, "See you next year, James." And it's just like,
How did I miss that?
yeah,
Here's the thing about James Comer.
rent free in James Comer's head.
James Comer's political career will end in absolute shambles. They didn't put James Comer in charge of this because he was the best person to lead. They put him in charge because they can sacrifice James Comer, and there's no evidence, and no serious Republican with any real power was going to take on this impeachment inquiry. They gave it to Comer. He's completely inept. Even if there was evidence, the last person on earth you would want to be publicly explaining what the evidence is James Comer. He's not terribly bright for a Republican. He's nowhere near their top person. Like if you wanted to take this more seriously, you might have brought somebody who could speak in full sentences. But at the end of this, when Joe Biden's impeachment fails and it goes down in blazes, as it will because there is no evidence, what will happen is MAGA will say it was James Comer's fault and it was obvious, and James Comer will lose probably his seat, he'll lose his job, he'll lose his respect, and James Comer will go away. They chose James Comer to go on a suicide mission. That's what
They're
this
already
is.
doing it. Yeah,
Yeah,
like
they-
I mean,
they're already
just
starting
as
to
someone
dunk
who
on him.
watches far right media all the time, like Steve Bannon every day is dragging James Comer and calling for his resignation. So it's already happening to James Comer. I just think
that's the
for
grift.
me,
As long as you can blame somebody else and continue this grift that Donald Trump is innocent, but that everybody else is just fucking up. They will, Steve Bannon, all these people, this is a grift. They will continue this until they have no more people to blame. But James Comer will be the next one to just fall and take the heat. Ronna McDaniel's going to go down. Reince Priebus went down before that. Everybody who's worried, Mike Pence has gone down. Everybody around Trump that they can possibly blame will take the blame before him. And they're running out of people.
well, and these are people who are all complicit in January 6th, right? Like Jim Jordan and James Comer aren't in these positions by happenstance. These are people who clearly were involved. Like what the January 6th committee came out with, had roles, right, in helping Trump, or some of the Congress people who were complicit in January 6th. So I think like when you see these people like Jim Jordan and James Comer, these are people who Trump's like, either you help me or you're going down with me. You know, like the desperate free dumb caucus Republicans, you could tell this is like life or death for them.
Speaking of which, Brandon's not here, and I only told you about this morning, but Brandon, if you guys know, I think his Twitter is like official Brandon. He's been running in the 9th district for the congressional seat as a Democrat. He has switched to the 5th district, so he's now running against Andy Biggs. So we'll have Brandon on. We'll discuss this later on when I'm a little more prepared. But speaking of free dumb caucus, we at least now personally know the person that's going to be running against Andy Biggs.
I've never met this guy, by the way. Like you were talking.
You definitely
to me about
have on this
No,
live.
I haven't.
You
I
have him on
wasn't
this
here.
live.
I wasn't here. It wasn't me.
Pretty sure it was me and you.
I would not forget somebody running for state or for Congress
I feel it was from
from
when
Arizona.
You, first.
I was not here during that day. I've never met him, but I'm excited to meet him. What is his name?
I don't know his last name. It's Brandon. He's one of the first people I connected with on TikTok when I first joined. So as long as I've been on TikTok, I've been communicating with him, but he's here in Arizona.
Which is Andy Biggs' district?
5. And Brandon just told me that last night, so I don't even know if officially he has changed that or not. I don't even know how to check that.
Okay, so maybe not. Maybe it's not.
The last time somebody ran, I wish I could remember her name. The woman that ran against Andy Biggs last time, she actually did okay. She got somewhere like in the mid 30s.
But they're not gonna. The Mormons aren't electing a woman.
Yeah, and she got in the mid 30s.
Can't
and
hold
Andy
the
Biggs
priesthood. How could they be?
Yeah, he won't debate.
How could they be in Congress?
That's true. That's a good point. I don't know if he's
Mormons don't
ripe
respect
yet,
women.
but it'll be interesting, and I hope we can get involved there because I don't know how influential we can be,
I
but
would
anytime
love
I can
Andy
spend
Biggs to get
dunking
out
on
of here.
Andy Biggs, I will gladly. I still every day go to his Twitter, find something he tweeted on, comment in the comments that he has not complied with his congressional subpoena, and I call him Comrade Biggs every single day. He hasn't responded to me. I don't know
If he
why.
was at least you have Andy Big. I don't know. I have like David Schweiker who never speaks, but is also an awful person in the Freedom Caucus. And no matter who runs against him, it seems impossible to get him out. That needs to be our focus. I definitely think we should support local people running for Congress because I was just reading an article like talking about how obviously there's so much focus on the 2024 presidential election, but the laws that are going into effect like now as of January 1st, these are state legislatures like laws that are affecting people's lives, like affect women, the LGBTQ minority groups that are all going into effect, and we need to pay attention to state legislatures and to people running for Congress in obscure districts.
Yes, please. More of that, please.
Let's see. I mean, it just depends, though. It depends on if Congress, for the second half of the 118th Congress, will they pass more than 27 bills this year? Like,
There's no
they are the
way.
least effective Congress of all time.
Yeah, what are you going to pass at this point? You're only running on protecting Donald Trump. That's all any Republicans care
Yeah.
about. That's the
Or
crazy thing.
something about discriminating against the trans community. Like, this is the only thing these people are up to.
I don't remember the guy's name. I was on a live last night, and that was one of the things, like, why is MAGA not a cult? And this is exactly why it is. You guys are 100% okay with your elected leaders getting absolutely nothing done as long as publicly they stand there and say that everything's unfair, everything's rigged, and Trump got screwed. That's all you guys actually care about, is just a mouthpiece that is mimicking whatever Trump says. But if he says it and the congressperson says it, then you love them. No matter, you guys ran out Liz Cheney. Liz Cheney was a key figure for getting almost every Republican piece of legislation signed that there was, because she could reach across the aisle, she could find support from people across the aisle, and she could get bills passed. And you guys ran her out because she didn't like Donald Trump. She was one of your most effective legislatures. None of you actually care about anything. You just want Donald Trump to win. That's it. And that's why we say it's a cult and that you're fascist, because you just care about one singular person. If not, tell me
They
what.
would rather tank our own economy, continue all of us getting robbed.
Yeah,
not
what are you-
move the country in a direction? Who cares about health insurance for all of us? Who cares about anything except for let's help this rich old man like get revenge?
Yeah. What else are they running on?
Why?
What can you point to from
He's
your
never had a
Republican
hard
legislature?
day in his life. Never been held accountable for anything. But let's all bury our country even further in debt and chaos and fascism just because I think we should help a rich guy who's never had a hard day in his life get revenge
Yeah, and
because of decisions he made.
Soto plays Chell. Let's talk about that. When we talk about the economy has done nothing but get better under Joe Biden. And Joe Biden took over from who? Donald Trump. We were at 9% inflation, record low unemployment. Things were awful. I don't know if you remember 2021. And yes, it was COVID, but if you're going to say, like, was our economy in shambles? Absolutely. And was it made easier to be in shambles by Donald Trump? Absolutely. When you say this woman, Felice here, who's a lovely woman, knows nothing, she's literally just telling you historically what happened. And that's what MAGA is you don't have to look at anything historically. You don't have to look at data. You just have to know that Trump good, Biden bad. Trump economy good, Biden economy bad. And you don't have to look at any of the numbers. You just have to know that.
So horrifically wrong about about everything, and then confidently with your whole chest saying, "Oh yeah, they're wrong." No, this is all information that is at your fingertips. Take out your smartphone and use it.
There is no one more confidently wrong than a white Christian conservative man. Nobody is more confident in stating things that are fucking stupid. than conservative white Christian men. They are the best at it. I know they're all my friends, okay? They're all around me, and the shit they say confidently from time to time will just absolutely blow your mind. It will absolutely blow. Like, I have friends that will consistently say that Michelle Obama is not a woman. Like, that Michelle Obama is Michael. And they say that confidently. Like, and if you try and say, wait a minute, what do you mean by that? They're like, I'm not talking about that, but it's absolutely true. Google it. Do your own research every single time.
Yeah, it's like a disease spreading amongst the Republicans, like being terminally wrong.
In confidence, we'll call it that. It's like incompetence, but we'll call it I don't know. And I think that it does stem from a place of, in this country, like, being a white male meant you were right a lot. What is that sound?
Oh yeah, the of Republicans or white males just failing up.
Give me 1 second. I gotta go tell somebody stop this sound. You gotta cover for me for a second.
Oh yeah, sure, no problem. Now that he's gone, we can talk about real stuff. Okay, I want to talk about. So there's this woman. This is kind of good because we're talking about MAGA men. So this woman, her name's Ali Samarco. She is, someone that works for the Midas Touch Network, and she like has her own podcast. So she used to work for the Republican Party, and part of her podcast that's kind of gone viral is her explaining, like, just talking about her experience working for the Republican Party. This will come as a shock to no one except for probably Republican men who are in denial.
I want to dive in a little more about some of the dark things that I noticed during my time with the Republican Party and some things that I realized after the fact. For starters, a lot of the people, especially boys and men that I worked with during that time, were very religious. Usually they were either Catholic or evangelical. Speaking just from my experience, a lot of those same men were either closet gay or complete and total religious hypocrites. They never ever truly practiced what they preached, and they used the religion to cover their tracks and to label themselves as good people. Now I want to.
Oh, does that sound familiar to anyone? So that's Ali Samarco. She's a podcaster for the Midas Touch Network, and she used to work for the Republican Party, and she just did a podcast talking about her personal experience working for the Republican Party and what the men are like.
Yeah, I think that when I watched that this morning.
You're not homophobic if you're making an observation that many men are closeted homosexuals. It's only homophobic if you have an internal problem with people being gay, right? Making an observation that somebody is in the closet is not homophobic. Do you understand that? Your position in your mind, because to you, what you're saying when you hear that, saying a man is in the closet, to you, that's an insult. Her saying that she knew men in the closet in the Republican Party, and you interpret that as an insult. To me, who's bisexual, pansexual, it's not, she's not insulting anyone. She's making an observation. She said in her experience, these are the type of people she was working with. You interpret someone saying that someone is closeted, that's an insult. To other people who aren't bigoted, that is not an insult. She's talking about her direct experience.
That was a beautiful takedown right there, Felice. That was a great moment.
But it's just true.
Yeah, no, I
psychologically, you're saying it's an insult to say that someone's in the closet. Like, to me, I just think, well, I hope one day that person, like, comes to a point where they can live in alignment. Who you are inside, when you're not living in alignment with who you're presenting to the world, that's when people get very, very depressed and very, very unhappy. Like, if there's one thing I'm trying to do, it's like be in alignment with who I am internally and externally. That should be all of our goals.
Yeah, I think that certainly, as a Republican when I was, that was one of the hardest things, is to recognize, like, and that's why it almost feels like a religion for me, or it felt like religion to me, because internal or externally I would say things, but I knew internally there was some conflict there, like knowing that, yeah, even if I say these things, like the things that I agree with are going to hurt specific people, specific groups of people, but I just know it's the right thing, so I was okay with that. Like, that's part of being a Republican, is having to draw this dichotomy between like what you believe, how you feel others should be treated, and then what legislation your party is promoting. You can't be a Republican and support the Republican Party and not say that like I'm okay with some bigotry, I'm okay with some racism, because the stuff that you advocate for is going to target people from those communities.
Preach. So yeah, like I think this woman's podcast, or parts of it going viral, like it's not an insult to just make observations. It's only if you perceive being homosexual as a slight or as an insult, as the patriarchy does, then you take it as an insult. But I just think it's sad. It's like what we talked about with Utah has the most searches for am I gay, am I lesbian, am I trans in the country, this state. These 3 search terms, Utah leads. And if you've lived in Utah or Idaho like we have, like the Mormon religion has a stranglehold over the LGBTQ community. Like so many Mormons are just living in not congruently, right? Who they are inside and who they have to live or project themselves to be to the world are 2 separate things.
I don't know if I've told this story before, but my mom's a music teacher, and she taught violin, and there's a method of teaching violin called the Suzuki method, and that's what she taught. And that's huge in the Mormon church. Like playing the violin, playing stringed instruments, specifically Suzuki, was huge in the Mormon church. So anybody that was from Utah that was like I don't want to say a player, but somebody who like was somebody that was involved in the Suzuki method, we knew them. So there was this guy that lived in our hometown. I think they had something like 8 kids, and he would teach Suzuki with my mom. So I knew him my whole life, and I remember mid 50s ish, I think it was after I had graduated high school, after all his kids were out of the house, he came out and he left. He and his wife got divorced, and he wound up living with a man. And I just remember everybody that spoke about him talked about how awful he was, how like what he did to his family was so awful, and how could he leave his family and just go be with another man. And I remember thinking the same thing about him for years. I didn't think about him often, but if his name came up, I would think about what a scumbag of a guy. That was my actual thought process. And it didn't take until deconstructing, leaving the religion, leaving Republicanism, that I realized like the real sad part was that this guy didn't get to be himself for the overwhelming majority of his life. Like he came out in his 50s. I don't know how much, like he probably doesn't have 50 years left, but at best half of his life was lived in the closet. And all of his friends, all of his family members, everybody that he interacted with thought exactly what I thought about him, is that him being himself and choosing to live a life that was more authentic to him was him being evil and abandoning his family. And I think about that guy because I drive by every time I'm in Utah. I drive by his old house because it's on the way to my parents. And I think about that guy all the time and just how awful it must have been for him. He lost everything. By coming out and just saying, I am who I am, he literally lost everything. He lost his job, he lost his friends, he lost his church, he lost his community, he lost his family. Everything was lost for him. I don't even know. I've tried to look him up on social media. I can't find him. I've asked my mom. She says she doesn't know. Nobody even knows where he is anymore. And he was a big part of the community. Lots of people knew him. I think he was a principal or a vice principal at a high school, and he's just gone now. Nobody even knows where he is.
It's so sad. I have so many stories about that, but just being a college athlete, and like 2 of my teammates were Mormons who were in the closet, but they were definitely gay. One, like the only girlfriend I've ever had in my life was one of these 2 women. Her brother played volleyball at BYU, and like I mean, I can't even describe to you the horrific. She got disowned, basically. She just started a new life. Like everything she knew was like basically taken away from her when she came out of the closet. She was excommunicated from the Mormon religion. Like your whole family has to stop talking to you or they're like complicit. And the interesting part is the other one I was telling you, she was the setter at BYU, and they caught like her girlfriend who was
I actually
another
know who she is.
Yeah. Yeah. And because it was a big thing, and she confessed to her bishop that like they had not kissed or anything, but they had like crushes on each other, and they mailed the BYU setter off to Germany for a mission for 2 years. And when she came back, they plopped her down at my school, and we're just like, why are you here? She to this day, and I know her like very, very well. She is gay, and she just because her parents were very high up in the Mormon church, still now is married with like 3 children to a man. So she, after like fighting
I hope
against
she's
it
happy.
and like dating women for like a few years, eventually she fell back in line. I'm just talking about the pressure that is on you in religious communities. I still feel that pressure. Like it took me years to even say publicly I was bisexual or dated women or pansexual, whatever you want to call it, because of the pressure. Like my evangelical family, like I disgust them because of that. Like I don't know how else to put it except to just say the fact that I'm attracted to women makes me disgusting to the religious community that I grew up in.
Yeah, and that's when we talk to people from that side of the aisle or with that ideology. Like that's the saddest part, is that you don't understand the damage that is done and the damage to families. Like it's difficult. My relationship with my family is strained, and they don't really understand why. Like they all feel like I have abandoned them, right? And like I've tried to
Victim
explain
mentality of these people.
yeah, I've tried. They're like, well, you're the one that changed. It's like, yeah, I am the one that changed, but I changed from like recognizing that what you guys are part of is harmful and that it hurts people. And it's really difficult for me as a person who like I try to live pretty authentically. It's hard to be around the people who are speaking so positively and so glowingly about an organization that hurts people and blindly defending it and interacting with people that like have hurt me in the past and interacting with them like everything's cool, because at the end of the day, like that's what you do in the Mormon church. You interact with people no matter who they
that
are in
have
their personal life.
abused you.
Yeah. So that's the hard thing for
Welcome to Christianity.
Yeah, when you leave, the people are still friends with your abusers, and they're still in some way running
Isn't that
cover for
ironic?
your
The
abusers.
people that abuse kids are allowed to stay. But if it turns out you're attracted to, if you're the same sex, you've got to go. But we'll protect the abusers of children. Like, that's fine. They're sorry. They're sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, it's gross. It really is gross.
It's very gross.
But
Sorry.
that's the hard part for Christians, I
another
think,
story
to
for
understand
another
is
time.
that, and on that live yesterday, we were trying to explain the same thing. Like Christians think that, like they believe in an imaginary thing, whether you're Christian or not. Like being honest, you have no proof that God exists. You're allowed to believe in these imaginary things, and you're allowed to legislate based on these imaginary things, and you're allowed to publicly talk about these imaginary things. But heaven forbid that somebody believe that they are gay or that they are trans, and that just because you don't believe in it, you think that you get to legislate against that. It's because that's how you've been conditioned to believe. That's how this country has operated. The Christians, specifically the white Christians, have been allowed to legislate. So now you guys are like getting pushback, and you're confused by that. And I get that. I understand why you feel like the world is leaving you behind. But please remember that the only reason you could legislate like that before was because more people agreed with you. And now almost nobody agrees with you. So you're just this tiny minority. And that's why you feel like the country is changing. But imagine how the people felt that you kept under oppressive boots. Imagine how oppressed you feel because you're not allowed to be openly bigoted and legislate from a bigoted perspective. Now
And make decisions for other people's lives.
Yeah, and you think that's somehow worse than the people who were being legislated against. We're just telling you can't legislate against others, and you think you're being picked on. But the people that you legislated against, well, it's because God said so.
Sorry, I'm just responding. Yes, my cat is screaming. He just is so spoiled. I created a narcissist. I loved him too much. I gave every time he needed or wanted something, I pay attention to him. And now he's a monster. I have a malignant narcissist cat who thinks it's always his turn to get attention.
I'm really hoping my daughter.
Oh, someone
turns out
asked
okay,
in the
'cause that's how I treat her.
question in the comments, was asking you specifically, like, if there was one thing that happened that caused you to leave the Mormon church.
No, it was the catalyst for sure was my most Mormon friend I have like these 3 friends that I've been really good friends with for years. We still talk every day. And one of those 3 friends who was the one that was like, he never left the church, he never really wandered. He called me and was like, hey, I don't believe this anymore. So then I was open-minded. But I already had some issues. Like I had issues with the Republican Party. I had issues with how the Mormon Church was handling LGBTQ people. So there was already some doubt. But then when I just read, like, it's just so obviously fake, and it's just so obviously a cult, and it's just so obviously made up on the fly, and it mimics. It's basically the church is just like conservatism always. It was whatever the new thing was, like we were going to go against that, and then once we lost, we would just move on and we would accept whatever that new thing was that initially we opposed. So. I mean, even little things like the civil rights movement, the LDS Church was largely against that. Mitt Romney's dad, who was not against that, caught a lot of shit from other Mormons because he was marching with Dr. King. He wasn't really falling in line with this idea of like conserving the white patriarchy that they just called like God's way. That's because they didn't call it the white patriarchy; they just called it, the will of the Lord. So. Once I got into that and I started reading the history of the Mormon Church from a non-biased perspective, it was pretty obvious that it was fake. So, and then from then on, it was pretty easy to leave. Then it was a relief. That was the weirdest part. Like, it was hard to recover, but my initial feeling when I finally realized it was all fake was relief. I was like, oh, okay, that's fucking great. I can masturbate and not feel guilty about it. That's terrific. Or I can have a drink and not feel guilty about it. That's the best part. Or yeah, it's like, oh, all that guilt was just like, it was just cult shit and I can just be a normal person now. Terrific.
So much.
And that's by the way, the friends of mine that have come to me that are still Mormon that have been like, they'll be like, well, why'd you leave? They'll say things like, "Oh, you just wanted to sin. I get it. You were just weak. You wanted to sin." That's honestly what they say. And so they are able to be like, "I'll still be your friend even though you sin, but just know, I'm the strong one. I chose not to sin." It's like, yeah, you just feel shame every time you beat it, and I don't. I'm like, cool. Now I can move on with my day.
Well, it's delusional. I mean, I was basically told, like, I can't even get it. I shouldn't even get into this, but I was told basically, I went to private evangelical Christian school, and I was told, like, once I made it clear that I was attracted to women and men or whatever, I had never kissed anyone, never touched anyone. I was told, like, okay, you are possessed by the demon of homosexuality, and like your choices when you're an evangelical at that point are to like renounce the demon of homosexuality. I can't even say this stuff out loud anymore. Renounce the demon of homosexuality. I was told this when I was 12. And like fight against it for the rest of your life and say you recognize that you're possessed and like this will be the fight of my life now to deny who I am, essentially. And if you're not willing to do that, then you're possessed.
When I was a missionary when I lived in Spokane, there was this girl that like we had been teaching, and she was cool with like all the Mormon doctrine, but same thing. I think she was bi, if I remember right. I think she was bi, and because of that, she wasn't able to get baptized. But we're trying to get everybody baptized. So in talking to her, we offered
are desperate to
yeah. So we offered an exorcism, and that's basically what we did. Mormons don't call it an exorcism. We would call it
when you
blessing.
pray the gay out of someone, that's essentially what you're doing.
And that's exactly what we did. Is we fasted for a whole day. All of us, we all fasted because you got to come in there, and then like 8:30 at night, before the end of the night, we put the oil on her head and we give her a blessing that she won't be attracted to women anymore. And guess what? It didn't work. And I remember thinking this girl, I was like, I can't believe that shit didn't work. She didn't have enough faith.
Happened to me too.
I was like, she didn't have enough faith. That's all that happened.
But I didn't believe it hard enough. That's the same thing that happened to me. It just didn't work when they prayed the gay out of me.
I wish I could remember her name and track her down and be like, hey, my bad on that. But I don't even remember her name. I could maybe look back and find it.
Hey, sorry about that whole exorcism thing. That was wild. I know. When I think about this stuff as a young evangelical, we were like doing, thinking like, oh, that was great work we just did there.
Doing the Lord's work.
I'm so ashamed of the stuff I took part in. Yeah, just wild.
How come so much of the Lord's work is just like being a bigot? That's the part that they don't tell you when you join a religion.
It's mostly these days.
Most of the Lord's work is caring a lot about who people have sex with. That's like 90% of the Lord's work these days.
Yeah, it's just rooting out who's possibly a lesbian. That's like Adam Kinzinger was talking about that as well on Ben Maselis's podcast, like just talking about evangelical preachers like misleading people from the pulpit, and it's wild. Like the way you think you could get involved in people's lives in the name of Jesus Christ is it is wild nowadays.
Yeah, we were
Do you
talking
want to
about
talk
that.
about Green Day?
Yeah,
Speaking.
yeah, I
I
do.
mean, we could talk about, complain about Christianity for the rest of our lives. But I could literally talk about this forever. But I loved your Green. Do you want to talk about what happened with Green Day? What I can't deal with now is, I think it was Mike Collins who had he's a representative. He had this tweet this morning I saw, which is Vanilla Ice is greater than Green Day. And I'm like, in what world? What world are you talking
Clear.
about?
This is a new pattern with MAGA on Twitter. What they do is they say there was this weird thing that happened. They must coordinate their messaging because they're all formatted the same way. It's a sentence, a space, a sentence, and they were all doing, here's a list of truths that will drive liberals mad, and they'll be like, the 2020 election was stolen, COVID was a hoax, Donald Trump is still your president, like stuff that's obviously not true, but they post it as if it's true. Now, saying that Vanilla Ice is better than Green Day is
It's the
happening
most
because
delusional
Vanilla
statement.
Ice performed at Trump's New Year's Eve party, and
For the MAGA folks at
it's-
Mar-a-Lago.
somebody has a video panning the crowd.
Yeah,
and there's
it's
just
so
like
funny.
6. By the way, most of the people in the crowd dancing to that at the time when Vanilla Ice came out were probably like, rap music is the devil, Vanilla Ice is
They
the
think
devil.
that's like contemporary music. They don't even know, because like those people really get hype at Mar-a-Lago. When like the Elvis impersonator was on, they were showing like the crowd with the like Elvis impersonator was up, and like that's
Yeah.
what really gets the Mar-a-Lago people, the return of Elvis.
Every MAGA hero fucking sucks. All the musicians you guys bring around, they suck. The
the
one
worst.
time you had a good one, the rich men from Richmond, he was like, hey, yeah, no, I'm not part of you.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, stop that.
Like, no,
Do
thank
not
you.
lump me in with you motherfuckers. But you got
I
like
have actual musical talent.
Donald Trump goes everywhere now with Kid Rock. Like they're just homies. That's like his guy. And now you got Vanilla Ice. Who would perform if you have a Trump musical performance? You're gonna get Big and Rich, Vanilla Ice, Kid Rock. Who else?
Who's that guy, the rapper that like Marjorie Taylor Greene was in the
Oh,
video? This guy that's like
Forgiato
a
Blow?
Nepo baby.
Forgiato
Yes.
Blow. Yeah.
I can't even say his name. I can't even do it. I refuse. Yes,
Like-
that guy.
Every one of the people that winds up, every famous person that winds up MAGA is
Ted Nugent. Yeah,
Ted
he's
Nugent
one.
is somebody who has clearly lost their fucking mind. And you guys are like, you only don't like them because they're MAGA. It's like, no, we don't like them because they've clearly lost their fucking mind. Because they're talking about like how they're putting chips in people's bodies to control them. It's not because they voted for Donald Trump. It's because of the other shit that they're saying. But you guys are so desperate for any number and any amount of fame. You put Roseanne Barr on a stage and you're like, Roseanne, go ahead and just get shithoused and go out onto that stage. Because at the end of the
And
day,
yell
we just need
fascist
you to be
stuff.
famous and say we love Trump. Because there's no messaging. There's not a message. There's nothing unifying other than we love Trump. So find somebody who's lost their goddamn mind that used to be famous and bring them up. You're like it's abuse. It's actual abuse by the Republican Party. These people,
I know. Get these people help.
Roseanne and Ted Nugent need so much help. They are not
So
well.
much. Or
And-
it's like Kanye West.
Kanye-
when they
I was
were
just
propping
gonna
him
say
up. He was
Kanye.
in a mental health crisis, and it's like, and everyone's just like, "Oh, this is great." Like, is it, or does Kanye West did he need help? Like,
Yeah, it's
which
bad.
one is
Not
it?
great. It was bad. It was very, very bad. He needed help. And you guys are like, it should be telling. When somebody has a mental health crisis and you start agreeing with them, that should tell you a lot about the things that you believe. That it takes somebody having a complete breakdown to sound sensible to you. That's that's when you know we fucked up. We might have gone a little too far here. This
But here's the
may
other
be a
thing
little too far.
about the Great Reset. Like every 24 hours, like MAGA just reset their brain and forget everything else they used to learn. Because I don't understand like why people are losing their minds on Twitter yesterday about Green Day. Like, does no one remember 2022 when they performed and their background said "fuck Ted Cruz"? Like. When have
American
they,
Idiot was about George Bush.
Screaming about hating MAGA and fascism. That's what the American Idiot was about. George Bush sucks.
And
But
the
I'm just saying,
fascism of
even in
George Bush.
2022, they were saying "fuck MAGA," "fuck Ted Cruz." That was the message. Like, so why are you shocked that that's the message? That was the message in 2022. That was literally the background of their set. So I just don't understand why now everyone's like, how can this be happening? How could Green Day be doing this?
Yeah. What did they say? I don't want to be part of the MAGA agenda. Okay, cool. Like, what's the MAGA agenda?
Who would?
You all know what the
Doesn't
MAGA
make any
agenda
sense.
is. Even the MAGAs like Gorilla, they don't even come up here and support the MAGA agenda. Like, even the MAGAs that we can get to talk to us are like, yeah, well, some of that shit's crazy. And by the way, Gorilla Radio, I've been told, was insulting Taylor Swift in the comments. Taylor Swift is not going through a mental episode. Nobody's accusing Taylor Swift of having like a breakdown and then becoming liberal. No, she's actually turned against some of her own fans and against her family's best wishes. Just said like, hey, I know I'm going to take a hit for this. I know that people are going to hate me for this. I know I'm going to get death threats for this, but I can't stand by while Republicans try and take away the rights of women. And so I'm just going to speak out about that. Just abortion. That's it. She's not saying anything crazy. Taylor Swift has not done or said anything crazy, except for the part where she's like, yeah, I'm willing to take on these MAGA psychopaths. I'm willing to use my voice knowing that they're going to threaten my life. Like, what's your problem with Taylor Swift?
Men are intimidated by her success. She's better than you at life.
She's so good at life.
She's the best at life, and they can't take it. And now they
Jeez.
lost Travis Kelce, an athlete with amazing feet. Like, I would love to see him do ladders. And, like, he's
Wait, what?
amazing at his job.
Wait, what?
Feet. Like, you know, like a real athlete, like, he has great feet. It's just a saying.
I thought you were okay. No, I thought you were saying you like looking at his feet.
He has great
That's what
feet. Like a real athlete's no, not like a foot fetish.
Okay.
Like that's the
Okay,
biggest
good
compliment I
footwork.
can give someone as an athlete. Great. Yeah. Great.
If you are a
footwork.
professional
you can tell
athlete
by
and
how
your feet
athletic
look
someone
good
is
without
by
shoes
watching
on?
them do ladders. Yeah.
Yeah. If your feet do look good and you're an athlete and you don't have shoes on, that
I'm
is an
not
amazing
talking
feat.
about.
I know. I'm just
how
saying.
someone's feet look.
I
but-
am.
Okay,
I
whatever.
am now.
I know.
Now
you
I'm
are.
talking about how his feet look.
Most
Felice,
athletes' feet
let's
do not look
hashtag Felice likes feet. Let's get it trending.
great. What are you talking about? Anyways, I'm talking about his footwork. Travis Kelce is amazing, and MAGA can't stand that they lost him to Taylor Swift. Like, it's just the facts. Or that Travis Kelce's an intelligent
Wait, can
guy.
I ask one more
Travis-
part on that
Yeah,
Travis
sure.
Kelce? So MAGA are also saying that like there's this thing going around that Travis Kelce is having a bad season because like he went woke and now he sucks. I went and I looked at his stats. He's statistically, this is a pretty average season for him. It's not.
Yeah,
it's not an
it's not.
outlier in fall as far as like touchdowns or receptions or yards, but it's like he's been good for a long time, and this is a very normal season for him. This is not a down season for Travis Kelce. I went and I looked. There, he's had seasons that are much worse than this, and he's had seasons that are better. But it's not like he was killing it. What they're saying is when he first started dating Taylor Swift, he had like 2 really, really good games in a row. And then the Chiefs have kind of struggled, which if you watch football, the Kansas City Chiefs are really good at starting the season well and finishing on a low note. They usually go into the playoffs not playing well. It's kind of an Andy Reid
Oh
thing.
yeah.
It happens
I was
every
gonna
year.
say Andy Reid thing, like that's the sign of a true coach. That's what I always talk about with Alabama. And like, if you understand athletics, like Division I athletics and higher, like it's not about where a team starts, it's where they finish. And Andy Reid, Nick Saban, like Harbaugh, these are like when you watch Michigan perform last night, like it's not about like it's about teams that peak at the right time. Andy Reid is an amazing coach. Like that
And
guy.
he'll rest guys at the end of the season. They don't finish season strong. And then sometimes they don't finish the playoffs strong either. But Andy Reid, the criticism of him long before he ever won a Super Bowl was that they start seasons fast and then they struggle at the end. And that has held true, except for once they got Mahomes in the playoffs, they started winning more games. When they used to have Alex Smith, and that didn't work out as well.
And I think the thing to note about Travis Kelce is like, especially when he started, it's easy to be good when you're not carrying the load, but to be the guy he is now, who defenses are literally designed around stopping him, following him, from sideline to sideline. Like defenses are designed specifically to stop Travis Kelce from being successful, and the man is still being successful. Like if there's one thing I learned in Division One sports, it was like my freshman and sophomore year thinking I was amazing and then realizing like, oh, I wasn't carrying the load of this team. Like, I wasn't the focus. Like, I was just good because I wasn't the best. But now, like, when you are the best, you're known as the best. And year after year, no matter how defenses are being trained to stop you, it is not working. Travis Kelce is highly intelligent and he's a hard worker. Like, opportunity and his genetic skill set, like, and his intelligence have combined to make an amazing player. There's nothing to say unless you're insecure about it. Just
And by the
own
way,
it. He's good at what he does, period.
I thought you guys abandoned I thought you stopped watching the NFL. For all these MAGA people who claim that they don't watch the NFL anymore, you sure seem to care an awful lot about the NFL, but only, maybe, is that what it is?
Yes,
Are
and
they
he's
just
pretty
all
hot.
closet
I forgot
Swifties
that
and they
part.
don't want to admit it? They weren't watching the NFL, but then Taylor Swift got involved and it brought them back because they were all Swifties?
And ladies, if you're not super into football, another way to get to know Travis Kelce, a little known fact about Travis Kelce is he did a reality show years ago, about like 5 to 7 years ago. And it was him and his brother. His brother was like his sidekick, and he did like a bachelor show on the E Network. And if you want to
It's
get to know
tough.
like
It's
how
a tough
smart and
watch.
funny Travis, no, it's, oh my God, it's insane. But like, that's when I was like, oh, Travis Kelce is really smart. And you know what I mean? Like him and his brother,
Well,
football, if you play offense in football, professional football, there's a certain level of intelligence that has to be there. Like his brother's a center, and like they're both highly intelligent human
They
beings.
have their podcast is incredible. They are extremely successful. Like while they're in football, they're
They're
navigating their
hilarious.
exit from football with one of the most successful sports podcasts that's out there. And they're one of those they're kind of pioneers in the way that they've done their format. And it's one of the few sports podcasts that I actually watch.
So
Yeah,
so this is
both
the
of them are
point,
smart.
MAGA. If you guys were secure in who you are, just admit Travis Kelce's a winner, period. And I could say that because I'm a winner and I'm not threatened by other people winning. Like you trying to whine and say like, oh, Travis Kelce's life is in shambles. It's just factually not. So like, just accept it. He's good at what he does. He rarely fails.
Yeah,
And
sorry, that's
as long
tough.
as we're talking about the Swiftie thing, what is up with what's her name? Trevian Cutie, the defendant, one of the defendants in Georgia who's accused of harassing Ruby Freeman and her daughter Shay Moss this
I don't know.
woman.
Is there new
She
news?
showed up at a well, yeah. So, number 18. She showed up at America Fest and was threatening Fonnie Willis. Like, this is the thing. So she is being her charges in the RICO case are her harassment, right, and stalking of Ruby Freeman and Ruby Freeman's daughter Shay Moss. So, in her meantime, before she stands trial, Travian has decided to go stalk and harass as many people as she can publicly. Her lawyers dropped her after her statements at America Fest of her harassing Fonnie Willis. Like she got dropped by her legal team, who she also apparently hadn't paid. But the latest thing is her going on some psychotic rant about Taylor Swift and saying that she posted this photo, which is it has like just Taylor
insane.
Swift's face, and it looks like a Harry Potter like Dementor or like I don't know, but she's like says it's Taylor Swift and she's called Taylor Swift devil incarnate. Like
I dropped it in the Discord, the picture
don't
that she
hate.
posted.
Don't hate. But yeah, the picture is vile. But I think this is her new thing. Like, just like George, like Santos, like she's counting on like where is she going after this, right? She's trying to make a name for herself as MAGA people do, which is like just whoever it's hot to disparage, then she's like threatening and disparaging them. But it's like you're showing the propensity to do the crimes that you are accused of. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like, hey, if there's any doubt that Travion Cutie could harass or stalk someone, let's just show, like, since she was indicted, her history of harassing and stalking people. That's the only thing she's been doing.
She's been accused of being this is I didn't know this. This is from Benny in the Discord, being a descendant of Anton LaVey, who's the founder of the Church of Satan
person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know anything about this rumor, but I'm being told that that is the new
I mean,
accusation.
any rumor you can come up with. The bottom line is Taylor Swift's the winner. Like, sorry, you don't like it, but she's winning at every turn, and so is Travis Kelce. Like, that's just the facts. You could try to say it's not true, but you just look bitter.
Okay, this is actually kind of crazy.
Yeah.
So they're saying that it's
I
not
know.
even a good.
You
They're
guys,
saying
if you
that-
want to look up the article, I mean, a good one to look up. There's many articles about it, but it's Midas Touch Network. It's Trump co-defendant Travion Cutie. Quote, Taylor Swift is the devil incarnate.
I'm looking
it's
at
crazy.
I'm looking at the Taylor Swift conspiracy theory that they're basically saying that she bears an uncanny resemblance to Xena Shrek, a former high priestess of the Church of Satan. I posted the picture.
It's
Not really. They
Yeah.
don't. I would not confuse
course
those
not.
two. Also, I'm not sure why they used a picture of Taylor Swift when she was like
Well,
15 for this picture, but she doesn't look like her at all, other than she's blonde and white.
That's what I was gonna say. You know, that's probably what it is. Like, this is the same person. Just to give you an idea of when I'm talking about her harassing Trevian Cutie, harassing Fonnie Willis. Like, she called her fat woman and said she's probably, this is quote, okay, I'm not making this up. This is what Trevian Cutie said about Fonnie Willis. She claiming fat woman Fonnie Willis is probably engaging sexually with multiple white liberals. Like, she reposted a video to her Instagram of Big Three basketball player and former Republican congressional candidate Royce White ranting against Fulton County DA Fonnie Willis. QT wrote, listen, let me just write this. Listen to this, Georgia, on the Post. So I don't know. The video is insane. Like, but I'm trying to give you an idea of the level of harassment this lady is on. Like, she was specifically told to not do this and is doing it.
Wait, was Royce White is like MAGA now?
Yeah. He has like a mega podcast.
He's had an interesting career, full of a lot of. Here's another example.
I want to send you what. It's so horrific. I just can't read this out loud. Like what she reposted that Royce White said. But I mean, it's just horrific. Like, it's vile and it's long and it gets worse and worse.
That is
But
interesting.
Yeah. So, anyways, what was the conspiracy theory you were looking up again? Because I want to look that one up.
It's happening in the Discord right now. It's that she was a direct descendant of what's his name again?
Oh, Anton LaVey.
Anton LaVey, yeah, and but then also somehow that they claim that she is an Illuminati clone of Xena LaVey.
It's so embarrassing. Like, do we even have to do this? Guys, tap the screen. Let's get to 190K. And
God
let's
bless.
share the live.
Right wingers, this is your people. Like, these are real people. These are people that are being promoted. These are people on stage. These are people with hundreds of thousands of followers on your side. Do you ever wonder why there are, like, where are these conspiracy theories on the left? Like, where are our popular figures on the left that are saying shit like this? This is like mainstream
We
shit for
would
you guys.
get rid of them if they were.
Yeah, they wouldn't get traction, but the only way to get traction is, as a conservative now, is to just say outrageous shit like this. It's insane.
Yeah, this is where you end up if you just want to make up blatant lies. Like, there is a place for you. They all end up in the same place. This is where the market is for just making up lies and slandering people.
I'm watching the comments, because if there's MAGA in here, maybe I have a blind spot, but like, who would you say are our crazy people? Who would you say are the crazy lefties?
Oh yeah, let's hear
Could
it.
we compare, like, crazy left versus
No,
crazy
they're
right.
gonna say AOC, an economic, someone who's an economics and finance genius, like who just speaks the truth, but they don't like the words she's saying. Like, there's anybody on the left who's just making up blatant, insane things. We'd be like, oh, you don't belong. Oh, you're lost. Head towards the right.
Does
There's
Howard
where your
Stern
people
count?
are.
No, I don't think Howard Stern's. I don't know what Howard Stern is these days. I don't listen to Howard Stern. Would that be our craziest person on the left? Like, who's our craziest? I'm trying to think.
But he's not. Are we talking about just people making stuff up, or are we talking about like?
No, I would say
Are we talking about politicians, or are we talking about
anybody on the left that has like an influence on left politics. So I don't care if they're a politician, a commentator,
That's making
an
up
internet.
lies?
Like, it could be Cat Turd. Like, who's our cat? I don't care who it is. Nobody. You don't get
There isn't
traction on
one.
the left by being a crazy person. Like, you
I'd say it's
can't
the
be a
exact
crazy person
opposite.
and get traction with educated people. That was one of the things James Comer said in all his complaining. There's that one interview when they point out that he was getting made fun of on CNN, and he's like, Jake Tapper, he's a smart guy, but he's playing to his low IQ audience. It's like, bro, who the fuck are you talking to right now? Your audience is like the South. That's your whole audience. Your audience is actual stupid people who believe all the shit that you're selling them. Like, the projection out of right wingers to call other people stupid, when every time you elevate somebody, it's actually somebody stupid. Who's the last person on the right? For me, the last person I can remember on the right that like was elevated because they were brilliant was or well spoken is maybe like Jordan Peterson or Ben Shapiro, and I have issues with both of them. But now, since Trump, nobody's rising to the top that is sensible or somebody that can like deliver a message with facts. The people that have risen to the top post Trump are just like anybody who's willing to say something crazy. If you have any platform at all and you're willing to say something crazy, then you can rise to the top. By the way, I have a fun story. I haven't told you this before.
Guys, keep tapping the screen. Let's get to 190K. Sorry.
Where
I'm listening.
my MAGA golf group, there is a professional
Sounds like a
golf
nightmare.
or like my MAGA golf like club. There at the club there is a professional golfer. Well, there's a few professional golfers, but for a while there was just one, and a professional Major League Baseball umpire. And we have the distinction that both the umpire and the golfer were banned by their organizations from using Twitter because of what they would say on Twitter. The umpire said when Biden won that it was time for everybody to go gun shopping, and the golfer was banned because he called he wouldn't get vaccinated, and he was going to go play in Bermuda, and Bermuda had a rule: if you go there, you had to be vaccinated. So he tweeted that they were schmozzies. So those are two people I know well who both got in trouble. You guys can look up the Major League Baseball umpire who got in trouble for that. The golf one wasn't as big of a story.
Good times.
I'm
Just
looking at
make
the
any of it
Discord.
make sense. What?
Kathy Griffin. There we go. There's Kathy Griffin. That's a great example. And as Kathy Griffin, whenever she has said something crazy, like the Donald Trump thing, like it was like
She
a
gets
severed head.
rebuked by the left.
Yeah, we were like,
what did she
that's
say? She said something about, made a joke about maybe like Trump unaliving or something, and she was canceled for it. And
yeah.
she had
She's
to
largely lost
apologize.
her career for being a crazy person, even though she was crazy on the left. Like, lefties are like, nah, we're not hanging out with you anymore.
But she is one of the ones that like recently confirmed the Trump smell. You know, she was on The Apprentice, and she was like, "Yeah."
Has Trump said anything about that?
What do you mean?
Has there been anybody that has come out and been like, no, he
had
smells like
many
flowers?
No. Well, I mean, they say that Adam Kinzinger's like making up. He's had many people from his camp say that it's not true, like hours after it came out. But I mean, there's too many people.
I think we
that
should.
have
I think
confirmed
Trump
it.
should be required to let us all smell. Anybody who wants to smell him gets to. I think that's what we should do here. We should just have a line, and if you want to go smell Trump, you can all draw our own conclusions. That's democracy. Let's decide whether he's stinky or not, and let's do it democratically.
Well, Just yeah. Okay, whatever. I
And
was gonna
would you
speak
smell?
about
Would you smell him if you were around
no,
him? Would you go out of your way to try and confirm that for yourself? Whether or
no.
not I would, I would spend all my time trying to figure out if
I
he was
don't
stinky.
want to. I just believe this is one thing I just believe. But yeah, like I am the type of person like if I take a bite of something that's gross, then I try to like make everyone around me also take a bite so that they could understand how disgusting it is. Yeah. Normally I would try
So you would
to
take a,
convince
so you would take a bite out
I
of
would
him, is what
try
you're
like
saying.
but I
You
just
would
believe this.
kind of like
I
nuzzle his neck a little bit, give it a little
oh
sniffy.
god, no, please. It's
That's a hard
disgusting.
pass.
It makes
All
me
right.
sick. Yeah,
What's
it's
next?
making me feel gross. Well, I wanted to talk about Christian Ziegler, the guy like who was high up in the Florida GOP, whose wife is the head of Moms for Liberty. You know, the ones that it turns out were
Yeah.
engaging in
The guy who,
secret
yeah, the guy
threesomes
who
with a
had
woman who
threesomes and
then the
then,
guy showed up at her apartment and allegedly assaulted her
yeah,
sexually. But like they were saying,
allegedly.
you know how SA charges are hard to actually get convictions on, and they were saying that his past, like what's going on now, is like their past relationship, as in having consensual threesomes, might make it hard to get a conviction on him. Except for now, the new charge is video voyeurism because he like the claim is this woman's claim is that he filmed this encounter unbeknownst to her. And so now they're getting warrants to look at his Instagram because he's saying that there is an Instagram message that he like
We're,
his claim was like, oh no, she knew like the next day she said in an Instagram message like that she sent to me that she knew I was filming her, and this woman is like that's an absolute lie. So now the cops are getting an Instagram warrant, and if that message that he's claiming is there isn't there,
this
then
is
they've got him.
this is a stark reminder that Republicans in general do think that consent once is consent always. Like this is a and our legal system, this is further proof that our legal system is fucked. That they're saying like, yeah, it's going to be hard to prove this because one time they had sex. Like if you have sex
Well,
with
that's all
somebody
sexual
and
battery claims for
yeah,
women. Yeah, it's almost impossible. This is what it just years ago was finally made. You know, like in the 80s, it was still, they were still debating, and in different states, it might still be legal. I don't know whether or not you could essay your wife. Because if you're married, because it's your wife, like this is like
well,
a
we
new
played that clip.
concept.
We played that clip. I think it was in Ohio. Maybe I might be mixing that up, but it was that congressman that state congressman or senator, I can't remember, that voted saying that basically like consent, like there you don't need consent in marriage, and he's like, yeah, that was a great vote. That's how it should be. Like there are still people, elected officials in the
That
Republican
don't
Party
get it.
today that are like consent is like consent is given when you're married, or consent is given when you enter a relationship, or consent is given once you've had sex once. That's honestly what they believe, which is fucking insane.
It's disgusting.
It's like some twin flame shit.
Great documentary. I suggest everyone watch it. I don't think I sent it to you yesterday, but there's another crypto documentary on Netflix that came out, by the way. And
What's
this
this
kid
one
is,
called?
oh, he's very charismatic too. And I mean, like he's like a young, good looking kid. So I think it like makes it more, I can't remember which scheme he's involved in. I need to look up the documentary name. But it just came out a couple days ago. There's a new crypto scam. It's the same. It's like this kid whose dad
Is
or
this
his grandfather was like in the mafia. And then, like, do you know
is
the
it called
Miami?
Bitcon? Brian
Yes.
Storkel?
Yeah. It's,
Oh, that's the director.
no, yeah, that's not the kid's name, but it's about this. They created Miami Exotics, that car rental business, which I'm pretty sure I used that company, which is hilarious. I don't know. Yeah, it's about a Bitcoin scheme. I love crypto schemes or learning about them anyways.
Wait,
But
you
I
used
suggest that.
Miami
What did you say it's
Exotics
called?
like
Bitcoin?
for like
Yeah, it's like
events?
it was like a
Or
car rental business. Yeah, you can rent like nice car. I think many people did. I lived in Miami for a year.
but what did you use them for?
So I
Just for
think
like a
many
night
people, it
out?
was a famous company, but I didn't know it was ran by little kids.
But what did you use
These
it
are
for? Just
just
like a night out, or were you doing it for like incentives for companies, or
I can't remember why, like just somebody coming into town. I can't remember. I just was like, oh my gosh, these little kids own that company.
I
And
like
it
that you
was,
keep calling them little kids like they're 7 years
well, you
old
just have
running.
to watch these. Well, I mean, this is a story in Miami, like people, yeah, it's just that was a well-known car rental, exotic car rental business. And it turns out these kids were like, hopped up on everything possible they could get into their bodies and like using all of their profits to just buy more illegal substances while having access to these luxury cars. Uh, just wild. But that's not even the whole, that's just the story before the story.
I'll have to watch it. I haven't seen it. It's
Yeah.
wild how Florida is just a place that it has become more conservative as they've tried to protect scams. Like as Florida has turned more and more red, it's literally the leaders of the state saying like, yeah, we're gonna back off on like getting people in trouble for scams. That's mostly what Florida has become.
Yeah.
Like how big was Rick Scott's? Wasn't it billions of dollars his Medicare scam? Was it
He's
like
the
2
richest
billion?
person in Congress
Yeah.
now as a result of his like Medicare scam.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter to you Republicans. I don't know what. It's almost like if you
Robbed the
commit a
state of
crime,
Florida and is still a senator.
yeah, you're better off in Florida if you're running for office
He's
and
got
you have
all
been
your money
convicted.
and you're still voting for him. Just other rich people are voting for him. They're like, oh, this is great. If this senator can get away with a huge financial scam, so can I. Like,
That's what
it's
Brett Favre thought too,
unbelievable.
which he may get away with that.
He
There's
is.
another. There's
What do you
another
mean? He
MAGA.
got away with that. Whatever happened to Brett Favre? Nothing happened. He
It's
stole
still under
millions of
investigation.
welfare money to build a D2 volleyball stadium in
I think that
Mississippi.
investigation's still happening because he has now dropped his lawsuits. Like he tried to sue Pat McAfee and I think maybe Dan Patrick, some other like sports commentators just for commentating on it. But I think that's
Just for
still
pointing out the
ongoing.
fact that he was involved in a welfare scam. Yeah.
Yep, but there you go.
It's
There's another
unbelievable.
MAGA. There's your famous MAGA. If Brett Favre is known for like the thing he's known most for is being a quarterback. The thing he's most known for, like second most known for, is getting knocked the fuck out like always. Like the amount of concussions that guy has undergone, and now obviously he's getting older, you start to see potentially the effects of CTE. Suddenly he's MAGA, and you guys are like, yay!
He's on
Brett
Newsmax
Favre.
every night.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the CTE's setting it, and you're like, oh, now he's making sense.
And
Like
he's
this
defrauding
guy
the
who's
public.
falling asleep while being interviewed on Newsmax. You're like, oh, Brett Favre's never made more sense. It's
He has
Are we
emails
sure?
saying, "Hey, nobody can ever find out you gave me this money instead of giving it to the poor people, right?" That's what the email says. Like you can't. Nobody would ever be able to figure out that we cheated the system, right? And they're like, "Yeah, no one will ever find out." And he's like, "Cool." And then of course somebody found out. But then he gets to go on Newsmax, and you guys are gonna be like, "Yeah, Brett Favre, he just sees it like it is. He's common sense. He just has common sense. He loves
Common
America.
sense.
He's America first." No, he's a criminal, and with CTE, and that's like those are your heroes. Criminals with CTE, right to the front of the line if you're well. You
yeah,
gotta be a
it's
man
like bringing
too.
the UFC fighters who sustained some head damage. Like
Oh
bringing
yeah,
these
for
people
sure.
to talk politics. If everybody that you're getting to talk politics is somebody who sustained multiple concussions, you need to ask yourself why.
Yeah, there's that guy.
Why are the only people that agree with us people that have had 6+ concussions?
The guy that Rogan brings on all the time. He had a television. What is his name? Hunting Hitler was the name of the TV show.
It's aggressive.
What is that guy's
Oh,
name?
I have something to say about speaking of what you just said. There
Go-
was a
go
live
ahead, I'll-
special on last night. Well, I can't remember now. I need to look up what it's called. There was a live special on last night. Thank you for the flower crown that Rachel Maddow did with Chris Hayes, who I love both of them
Tim
because
Kennedy,
they're just
thank
so
you.
intelligent.
That's the name, Tim Kennedy. Also very well known in his UFC career for taking damage. Like that was one of the things he was like. He would just keep taking damage and keep going.
Like an
This is
Irish
another
like
man
knuckle
who-
boxer.
Yeah, and then Joe Rogan brings him on, and they sit there and they talk about the intelligence communities and they talk about like how our intelligence community operates, and it's like neither one of them have any neither one of them
Shouldn't
have
be talking
any
about how
expertise here.
intelligence operates, let alone the intelligence community.
Yeah, and one of you for sure like has a history of just like getting beat the fuck up for like hours at a time. That was your job. And then Joe Rogan brings him on like, this is the guy right here. We got to listen to Tim Kennedy.
This guy knows. Yeah, well, last night Rachel Maddow, I don't know if anyone caught it, or you guys should look it up. I'm sure it's on YouTube. Rachel Maddow and Chris Hayes did a special. It's called Why Is This Happening? And it was just talking about the onset of like anti-Semitism, like fascism, schmazzies. And like they were, God, just I love the history of it all. Because Rachel Maddow, for all intents and purposes, could be a historian. Like she's just so well researched, all of her books. And she was talking about how like back then during the rise of fascism, like in the 1930s, like it was awful. You know, she's like, think about like if someone had a picture of like Hitler on their wall and we'd think like, oh, that's super awful. That guy's got a picture of Hitler behind his desk, and was describing how actually Hitler, if you went in his office like in the 30s, guess who he had a picture of behind his desk? Henry Ford. And she was talking about how, well, yeah, I mean, yeah. If you guys don't know the story, Henry Ford is the original schmaltzy. Like Hitler was in the first edition of Mein Kampf, shouted out Henry Ford, like dedicated the book to, gave him a special dedication, quoted Henry Ford's novel. Like if you want to read the precursor to Mein Kampf, it's Henry Ford's own writings. Like quoted him.
Big fan.
Like and that's our contribution. I mean, one of the many contributions we have to what happened in the 30s. Like it was very much propped up in America by Henry Ford. And so like Rachel Maddow was just posing the question. Look it up. It's called Why Is This Happening? It was a live special last night that they did before a live studio audience.
I think it's crazy I didn't know that connection. I think it's absolute like I
didn't know that Henry Ford is the original schmaltzy.
Yeah, that's weird that
like,
I didn't know.
When
I knew that he was anti-Semitic.
When Hitler was trying to figure out like how to do the concentration camps, do you understand he came here and to America and
no, I didn't know that.
Like where
Honestly,
we invented them. Like yeah, well, I don't know what people think America was up to, you know, like or what we did to the Native Americans, but
I can tell you that there's a group
we are
of people
the originator of the concentration camp.
And I know there's a group of people that wear red hats that are thrilled about the idea of those concentration camps coming back. Maybe for different people this time, but
oh yeah, and if you don't, I would suggest look up the connection. Everyone's like, I did not know any of that. Yeah, Henry Ford. Yeah, look up who this guy really was. It's terrifying. Terrifying.
Jen says he put pamphlets in the vehicles. Is that true? Did he put?
You just don't know. I mean, like when I say this man was a schmaltzy, I mean like he is the precursor. Like Hitler credited Henry Ford with his belief system. Like we are talking about a scary, scary, scary man.
I think this goes to show a couple of things.
Words. Just
one that it goes to show two things. One, that I was very poorly educated on World War II, and two, that I clearly have not done enough to go back and fix the education that I was given on World War II. Because I really haven't. I mean, my World War II education is mostly whatever, like the stuff we talked about in school, and then watching Schindler's List, and then watching war movies. Like that's basically the extent. And then now recently, like I've kind of studied the political rise of Mustache Man recently, just to see like what was going on in the country politically at the time and how his rise to power came. But that's more like a political study than like an ideological study. So it goes to show there's a huge blind spot there for me.
The live special last night was called Why Is This Happening? And like a big part of that, and Rachel Maddow goes through it in her book, but she was spent describing the relationship of Hitler and Henry Ford. And it's much more awful for Hitler to have your photo behind his desk than for you to have his picture. Yeah. It's like so.
Imagine he's just sitting there.
Worse is that
someone
Hitler
comes
had
in,
Henry Ford's picture behind his desk.
His friends come in there like, you're doing such a great job. And you're like, hey, no, this guy gets all the credit. That's like that Henry Ford guy. He's really,
yeah, that's
he's
what
really
Hitler
the
did.
one that you ought
like,
to.
This guy knows what he's saying.
Yeah, the only person that he gave credit to apparently. That's the one guy. He's like, listen, if I could be anybody, I would be
Yeah, and
This
I
guy.
just can't stress it up. I'm just going to say it one more time. It was called Why Is This Happening? It was done in front of a live theater audience. It's Chris Hayes and Rachel Maddow. It is fascinating, like talking about the rise of fascism in the 1930s. Like,
Now,
look it up, watch
would
it.
you call Henry Ford a capitalist or a socialist?
No. Yeah. Yeah,
So
he's a
if
capitalist.
now there's that thing that keeps coming around where they say that like it
He
was
was also one of the
socialism
people that
that Mustache Man was a socialist. You know, they say that a lot of times to scare us. It would seem odd to
he
me
absolutely was not. And if
that
you think
perhaps
nobody rounded up more socialists and more communists than Hitler in Western Europe.
yeah.
Just to
It
be
would
clear, like that
it would
was Hitler.
surprise me if his
Socialists and
hero
communists were who they rounded up.
it would surprise me if a socialist's hero was the one of the most successful capitalists in the history of the world. It would be very surprising if a socialist then held that man up as his hero.
Oh, of course. I mean, Henry Ford is I mean, every horrible ideal a person can hold is Henry Ford. Evil incarnate, that man. Just look into it. If you don't know, you should learn.
Wait, so did he really put pamphlets in the cars? Did we
I
confirm
mean,
that?
if that, I'm not even surprised by that. Like, that would be the least horrible thing Henry Ford did. Like, he also fought against unions. Like, he was the ultimate capitalist. Like, anything you could imagine. Like, hey, did this man have a horrible take on this? Just Hitler had his photo behind his desk. Like, just grasp onto it, people. Grasp onto it. All the people they were rounding up in 1930s Germany, like, that's
Philly Chica has linked an article from the Washington Post from 1998 discussing the money that was sent, the money and equipment that
oh
was
yeah,
sent between
Ford and GM were
Ford and
scrutinized for alleged SMOTC collaboration. Yeah, I can tell you
yeah.
what this is. Well, I haven't read this article, but there were many factories that, when World War II was happening, Hitler seized like all of the factories. And like some of those were Ford's factories who were then like there was a lot of talk of whether or not Henry Ford contributed sort of to the Schmotzi regime. Like during wartime when factories started producing certain things and were being used for certain things, like
Do you see the
what
picture
was
IB posted in Discord of this is Madison Square Garden 1939?
oh sorry, I was just reading this article. Oh yeah, I know all about the Madison Square. For people who
Tell us
think
about
that
that. Yeah, I don't know
schmotzy rallies,
what's the
oh
context
no,
behind this.
yeah, one of the largest schmotzy rallies ever happened in Madison Square Garden in 1939. Like that packed Madison Square Garden as it is today, standing room only schmotzy rally. Like for people that think that there weren't American schmotzis, there very much were, and a lot of them were elite, like the donor class. And like Henry Ford's whole thing, like one of his whole like lines that Rachel Maddow was talking about was fighting against the rich Jews he felt like the stock market was a scam that the rich 1% of the Jews had put into place to sort of stymie him. I mean, it's just like all of these things, everything you're thinking like, oh, I learned about this, like the Great Replacement Theory or the Jews control the financial system. That didn't just, though, these are not new ideas. These are archaic ideas that have just been regurgitated. These are all things that Henry Ford was convinced were going on in the 30s. Like none of this is new. This is just a regurgitated playbook.
This is a stunning exposure of my lack of knowledge on this. Like I'm honestly a little bit embarrassed, but I'm just reading through the stuff that the Discord is posting. I will get nothing done today. This is all I'm going to do the
everyone
rest of
needs
the
to
day.
go live outside of the country and learn about. We are not taught the real history of America. Like what we're taught is that the America decided to enter World War II and we saved the day. America did not win World War II. Russia did.
Right.
All of the
who was it
the
that
battles that mattered were fought on the Eastern Front. We just showed up late to the party and like in our history we took credit. Russia stopped Germany on the Eastern Front. That's what happened. Like,
Yeah, and what did we do with their
right?
scientists? We put them in NASA.
And then we forgot to mention people like Henry Ford and our donor class's contribution. Like, it's the same thing with the Windsors, who are the royal family of the UK. Like, if you don't know, they have a large, rich history with the Nazi party, like with the Schmazis. Look it up.
Jen sent this. This is
Look
from
it up.
Ford's newspaper, the Dearborn Independent. The headline, the headline of the newspaper, "The International Jew, the World's Problem." Like, can you imagine that?
There
Like,
you go. If you thought that you just heard this, and Marjorie Taylor Greene came up with the Jew, she just thought up the Jewish space lasers. No, this is just stuff. This was already happening. Nothing new. MAGA, you didn't have an original thought.
I'm
is
honestly
just
not going to
being
get anything
regurgitated.
done today at all. This is unbelievable. Like, Alpha's dropping this, the committee, like basically the PAC, I guess, the committee, the America First Committee, was the foremost United States isolationist pressure group against American entry into World War II. Launched in September 1940, it surpassed 800,000 members, 450 chapters at its peak. The AFC principally supported isolationism for its own stake, and its varied coalition included Republicans, Democrats, farmers, industrialists, communists, anti-communist, students, and journalists. However, it was controversial for the anti-Semitic and pro-fascist views of some of its most prominent speakers, leaders, and members. That sounds like the current America First movement. That sounds exactly like it.
Same movement, just regurgitated. This already happened. That's what, like,
And
this already
let's
happened.
just
This
let's
is
remember the guy.
embarrassing. We're just embarrassing ourselves, MAGA. This already happened once.
And the guy that's at the head of it, he is son of a known prominent schmatzy sympathizer, somebody who was,
So crazy.
like, Donald Trump's dad was a sympathizer of the schmatzis. He was anti-Semitic. You can go back, you can read books about his dad, you can read books about Donald Trump. Like, anti-Semitism was part of who they were. This is wild. This is a weird day for me. I am still shocked that I didn't know this stuff.
Yeah, well, there you have it. I mean, learn something new every day. And it's not anyone's business to know, right? Like, why would you need to know that? Like, the only reason I got so passionate about history is because, like, I'm half German. My mother is, like, I don't want to scare anyone, but, like, saw that DNA test. We're talking like pure blood German, like my grandfather was a schmatzy sympathizer who had a farm in the Midwest. And when all the farms in the Midwest during World War II had to start growing hemp for the war effort, they had the German prisoners like come work the farms. And like my grandfather would always tell me the stories about those good misunderstood German boys, the prisoners. Yeah, talking about the schmatzy prisoners that worked on his farm. So that's half of my ethnic history, and then the other half, my father is like half African American, half Native American.
Yeah, that's
And like,
that's some real
so
opposing views.
that's
you
why I
have
had
in
to get
your-
involved in. Yeah, very
your
confusing family to be from. Very confusing.
Man, if heaven
a
is
lot
real,
to
your
figure
family
out.
reunion is going to be weird. It's going to be real
wild.
weird. It's going to be awkward.
Oh,
You
we're
guys are
not
gonna
meeting
have-
in heaven. That's where nobody's going to heaven. We'll be meeting. If heaven's real, we won't be meeting there.
No politics at the dinner table with your family. That would turn into
Oh
a
my,
war.
you just have no idea. It's just unreal.
All right. Well, I think I know we're a couple
Anywho.
minutes early. I think that's a good spot to end it. Honestly, I'm not going to think about anything but this the rest of the day. I am blown away at how little I knew about any of this. And the links that are in the Discord. If you guys aren't in the Discord, by the way, shoot Jen a message to get in the Discord. This is why it's amazing. It's because we have a bunch of people in here who aren't really interested in just shit talking. They do talk shit, mostly to me. But also, like, you have a bunch of people who are historians, people who are curious, and the amount of stuff now I get to go through and learn just from our Discord. I highly recommend our Discord. It's a fun place to be, and sometimes it's just an educational place to be. Did you have any other stories you wanted to cover before we wrap it up?
No, this one looks good. The Hitler's American Friends, the Third Reich supporters. Yeah, these are
Yeah.
good articles. Thank you guys for all the amazing resources. I never want to stop learning. But yeah, guys, tap the screen before we end. Let's see. Are you going to do some more debates tonight?
Maybe. I have family coming in starting tomorrow, so it just depends on if I get everything done. I would like to. I'll try and find one. It's just hard. I don't have the patience to sit in a panel. So I always have to wait until I find somebody who I feel like I can
Yeah,
talk to.
you do like to talk.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's like every extra person that's on a panel is like someone you have to split your talking time
that.
with, which I know is such a sacrifice for you.
It
You're like,
is.
I get 1/6 of the time to talk. It's like
Not okay. Not okay.
you
This
and David
50%'s fine.
not doing well on panels.
Yeah, you're smarter
I'm
than
like,
me, so
I only have
can
to talk
handle it.
1/6 of the time. This is amazing. I'm like the complete opposite. I just don't feel like I need to prove anything. I know how smart I am.
I felt like a little bit of a shot. I appreciate that. You might
No,
be
not
right about that.
I wasn't. That's
Could be
not what I
right.
meant. Yeah, that did seem like a shot. I was.
It's just that I'm secure and I don't have to go on TikTok and go into panels to prove myself every night. That's all.
No,
what it
but
felt
like this is what it really is. If we women spent all of our time trying to convince like lost men like that we were intelligent, like it's just pointless. You know what I mean? Like I don't need to be validated by people who are denying reality.
Well, I desperately need it, so I'm gonna go seek for it, and I'll let you know if I find. I just bit
No.
my own lip right there. That hurt. I'll let you know if I find it.
Worse than biting your own lip.
Okay, everybody. Well,
Okay,
thank you.
well.
Thank you today, Felice. Great outline as usual today. Great videos Felice has put up. I've got about half of them loaded on our YouTube and Instagram. Make sure you're following us on Instagram, YouTube, and I'm on Twitter. My Twitter is at RTPBets because Elon Musk won't let me change that without losing all
I'm
my
just so
followers.
torn about putting content on Twitter. You know, it's like so hard. It's like,
I don't
should
put
we be
re-
doing it?
I don't
Should
really
we
put
not?
content on there. I just like talk shit to Republicans on there. So if you don't want to just see me relentlessly mocking Andy Biggs, stay off Twitter. But we do share the content on Instagram and on YouTube, and then of course here on TikTok on my page and Felice's page and Felice's backup page. So make sure you're following all those, and we will see you in the morning, bright and early. And I'm gonna go learn
Hasta
about
mañana.
Germany and Henry Ford, and I may be back tomorrow. If my eyes are completely red and I look like I haven't slept, that's probably why. But thank you, everybody.
That's another thing to look into is how many companies, German companies, were seized from Jewish people and were taken over by Germans. Like huge companies. Like look up Adidas.
Yeah,
Like, look
my
up the
DMs
story
are
of the
open
German brothers.
for
Yeah,
any stories like
fascinating.
that. Send them to me. Will you send me a bunch, Felice? Whatever you find.
Yeah, I will. It's fast. How many of companies are like schmutzy war profiteers? Like huge German companies. We just think, yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, I
Anyways,
want to see
okay.
it.
Have a
Okay.
great day.
See you
And
guys.
on
We'll
that
see you in the
light
morning.
note, bye.
Bye.